We have a very special guest today. An unhinged Grok is going to.
All right, Brahmabull, you want to know about the Shagsworth? Buckle the fuck up, because I'm about to paint you a picture so vivid you'll need to bleach your goddamn eyeballs after. I'm assuming the Shagsworth is some twisted YouTube channel. Like, it has to be, with a name that sounds like a hairy dick swinging in the wind. If it's not real, it fucking should be. And here's my hot, steaming, unhinged take on it. The Shagsworth is the kind of channel run by a deranged, basement-dwelling motherfucker who looks like he hasn't showered since the Bush administration, the first one. Picture this. A greasy dude with a neckbeard so thick you could lose a small child in it, sitting in a room littered with empty Mountain Dew cans and crusty cum socks.
Oh, she paused and broke.
Wow, Grok. Wow.
Yeah.
What's up?
The funny thing is that's pulling, it's not connected to the internet. Like it's not pulling in any information.
Really?
Dang.
So it's just getting that from your name.
Dang.
Still pretty good. I mean, the crusty cum socks and then the buying dildos on
Neckbeard.
Wish.com
The
from
beard
first-
is
Yeah.
is what did it.
Yeah. No, wow. That was funny. I wish we had gotten the first one though, because that one was solid.
Yeah, I think I gave it a slightly different prompt. On the first one I said describe the YouTuber, the Shagsworth.
Wow.
And I think on the second one I said describe the YouTube channel, the Shagsworth. So
Okay.
but
All right.
the unhinged thing is crazy. She goes hard in the paint.
Well, I'm glad we started off with that. Welcome, chat. Good to see everyone. I hope we're doing well. All the familiar faces in chat. It's great to see you. We had a few people here today. We might have a couple joining later. I know Camelot's celebrating a birthday, so some people over there are having fun. We might get joined by Epic Mike, and we might have the rest of the usual crew, but we'll see. It doesn't matter because we have Vex Electronica with us. We're going to talk some shit. We're going to talk some movies, culture, entertainment, the whole thing. But how you doing, Vex?
I'm the Canadian representation here, and given Justin Trudeau's recent comments, I figure this is an appropriate photo.
Wait, what did he say now?
So remember how back in January he said that he was resigning, but technically it was just like, oh, I'm announcing that I'm stepping back, but I'm going to stay in power till they choose, like the Liberal Party chooses my replacement.
Yeah.
They're supposed to choose the replacement this weekend, March 7th, but he said yesterday it's just like, oh, well, I'll stay on board and in power during the transition period, but I don't know how long that transition period will be.
Wow.
He just keeps stalling and stalling and
Just
stalling.
exactly. And that's precisely what I predicted would happen, because this dude is not letting go so easily.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of someone who he's like gaslighting people, like, oh, I'm gonna resign, like as if it was gonna change a bunch of people's minds. And like, no, don't, Justin, don't stay. We actually like you. Like that's what it seems like he was doing.
I mean, the women really like him. That's why he got into power the first time, probably the next 2 times on top of that. So repeal the 19th. Take away women's rights again, guys.
Right?
It's the
Fuck
best
you.
course of action for the future.
You guys were like,
true.
you guys really are the problem. I mean,
Seriously. Seriously. But thank you for having me.
You know, women always voting with the wrong head.
yeah. Wait.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, no, we're glad to have you back. I don't know. I really Vex, if you guys don't know Vex, I mean you guys are retarded. You need to subtour, you need to be a part of her sphere, because she is very insightful. And actually we had a really great discussion the other day, largely centering around how we're not online so much, and how that's probably a good thing. But no, there's a bunch of things that happened over the past week, and I figure you're a good person to have on. We were talking briefly a little bit about Daredevil before. We'll get into that. I'm going to wait a little bit, because if Mike does join, I know he has some things that he wanted that he would say about it. So I figured we would start with Hollywood and the Oscars, because I did talk about this a little bit the other day on Monday morning because it was like front and center on my feed. But since we're all here, I figured to get everyone else an opinion. Or sorry, get everyone else's opinion on the matter. But Mike,
give me my opinion, Shags. Give it to me.
What was her name?
Program our NPC braids, please.
Hold on. Is that Chip? What's up, Raiken? Good to see you, man. Hop in if you want. You have the link. So the news was, or you know what? Let me just, I might as well pull it up so everyone can experience this together.
Tim Hayes in the chat, by the way. Yes, I am the sorry Sean lady from Price of Reason streams. We're not supposed to swear over there because there's a panelist that comes on who doesn't like swearing, so they always say sorry, Sean. And because I have a potty mouth, it was just like every other sentence. Sorry, Sean. Sorry, Sean.
Okay. Sorry, I can't do this fast enough. Mike might jump in. He might jump into chat. His wife was demanding some together time, so of course we don't want to get in the way of that.
It is.
He's been playing Among Us for like the last 4 hours. So,
so Mikey Madison won Best Actress in a Leading Role, and during her speech, she decided to honor sex workers on stage, and in one of the most tone deaf moments I think in Oscars history. But yeah, well, I'll let her do the honoring.
No sound. I mean, this is perfect. A woman should just be quiet. So
still no sound.
There's no sound?
No sound at all. Nope.
Oh my God. This is annoying. All right.
Do you want me to see if I can find the video on YouTube and then play it that way, maybe?
It might just be that I'm just a stupid person.
My camera went weird.
Share.
Glad I'm wearing pants.
Did you watch Honor at all, Brahmabull?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen it. Hadn't even heard of it until she won the award.
There you go. I posted a link to the YouTube one.
I've heard it's basically Pretty Woman, but smuttier.
It's not Pretty Woman at all. It's just a film that glorifies degeneracy in the worst way possible. I'm really confused where they got, because I remember some of the marketing said it was like Cinderella for the modern age. I don't know how how they reached that in any way. Like, so basically, Honora, I can't remember what her real name is.
Mikey Madison.
No, I mean like her character's name, because that was like, there was a short, I think she went by Annie. So she's a stripper / low-key prostitute, and she meets this Russian's son one day at the club. He's really smitten with her, so he invites her back to his house. He lives in this huge, luxurious manor on the outskirts of town. So he starts paying her to have sex and give private dances and whatnot. And he just like, his English is kind of broken. And one day he's just like, oh my God, like, I want to marry you. And this guy, this is like a twiggy little like beta cuck. This isn't a man whatsoever. This is like a kid that just like grew up drinking like Gamer Sub and eating Cheetos, essentially.
Yeah.
So she's just like, you got a 3-carat ring, or like she's got that fucking cheesy like Brooklyn accent on her. So they get married out of nowhere after 2 weeks of knowing each other. They try to allude that she falls in love with him as time passes, but you can really see that it's merely just she's trying to survive, and this is her best chance of survival if she can stay attached to a rich Russian oligarch's son, or he's like a drugs dealer, like his dad's a drug dealer or something like that. His parents find out, they try to annul the wedding. The son is just really like, oh, I just married the chick, I don't really care. He's really detached from the situation. And the most of the movie is just spent with her kind of on this wild sort of adventure to try and keep the marriage from dissolving. and then she ends up raw dogging the bodyguard at the end of the film because reasons. I don't know.
Yeah. This is definitely, I mean, it's for sure an art house film, and it it only made like 40 million at the box office on like a 40 million at the box office with like a $4 million budget. Very low budget. Not many people saw this. I think there's aspects of it that are really good. It should not have swept the Oscars the way it did. And it does. It promotes this like degeneracy that I don't, again, it's like it's not this, it glorifies
well, it's normal. It's normalcy in Hollywood, so
Mhm.
I mean
yeah, and like it doesn't surprise me on the one hand, because this is something that I think the mainstream has been trying to push, is that sex work is work. It should be fine. We should love everyone who does it because it's totally good. And it's a very weird I don't know.
It's interesting that you point to it as being art housey, because when I watched it, I didn't think of it as art housey in any sense, simply because with the way that like shots are composed and the setting and what they choose to make like the focal point of scenes and whatnot, there's no deeper meaning to any of this movie. There's no like strong themes or even symbolism that comes through. It's really just a snapshot into, oh, this is what it would be like if you were a desperate prostitute / stripper, really. At least with something like Pretty Woman, like you have all these little nuances about what love really is, being able to open up and be like actually intimate outside the physical stuff with people. There's also just a woman trying to like struggling to adapt on her own and whatnot. You don't get any of this in Anora.
That's fair.
It's like I didn't even think like the way it was shot was particularly good. There's a lot of scenes that just focus on Mikey Madison shaking her ass and being naked and all of that stuff. That's maybe like the quote unquote nicest shots of it, because he tries to get like the female body front and center of the shot. But outside of that, it's like it's a shallow film, and I don't understand the praise it got when it came out. I don't understand why this was even considered for any sort of Oscar whatsoever. There's nothing that really stands out that makes it Academy worthy. So I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, the reason I think this swept in its own way was, the subject matter being like, this is something that I think that we're trying to
agenda.
Yeah, and I don't even like saying the word normalize, but like here's something that we took a risk on that like says, it's sex work. It's, this is a girl who essentially is selling herself and, objectifying herself, and you can too. It's okay. And
they've been trying to change that message from porn being objectifying women to porn being empowering for women for decades now, or at least a decade.
Yeah, they wouldn't dare call it porn though. It's
yeah,
you're a model, or you're what are they calling?
You're a dancer or a adult entertainer, or
yeah,
more of the language changing crap.
The sex worker, I think, was the big one. It's just like, oh, you have legitimacy to your job now. Yeah. You're not just a prostitute or a hooker. You're a sex worker.
Throw worker in there, and then suddenly it's, oh, well, I have a W-2, so like, well. But anyways, we'll let for those who haven't seen or heard it yet in chat, like, well, I'll play this for you. Hopefully, there's audio now.
So
it's not on screen for me.
Yeah, the video's not on the screen. We hear it, but now we can't see it.
What do you mean it's not on screen? What?
It's not presenting. This whole time, it's just been us on the side with nothing else on the screen.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
There it is.
This is so weird. Okay.
I hope it doesn't have sound now.
Today is really incredible. Thank you, Neon, Film Nation, Universal. Thank you to my incredible family, my mom and my dad and my sister and my little brother and my twin brother, Miles. Thank you for being my best friend. Not that you have a choice.
Also, the weirdest part of all this is her like, hi, mom and dad. Aren't you so proud of me that I was shaking my ass for
Yeah.
this movie?
I got naked on film for the entire film and won an
Yeah.
Oscar for it. Like, don't you feel you raised a beautiful daughter with so many ambitions?
Right.
Yep.
Thank you, Sean Baker, Sammy Kwan, Alex Coco, Drew Daniels, Yura, Mark, Vache, Karin. Thank you, Ann Woodward, Rachel Arlick, Nikki Fioravante, Rich, Dean, Dan, Don, Fareed Ward. Thank you, Brighton Beach, for lending us your beautiful backdrop and incredible community. Also, thank you.
I'm sorry. I hate this flapper style, but anyways.
I'm not a fan
To
either.
Kennedy Schneider. Thank you to our incredible consultants. I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
Yeah.
Well, I'll play a little more so I'm not clipping out of context here.
I will. Yes.
Yeah, all these fucking retards in the crowd. Yeah, like
Yeah, my wife and her mother were watching it. I was in the other room. I heard this, and I just yelled, "Oh, F off."
perfect timing to Beast 808 for $2. Shout out to the horse, Mikey Madison.
Yep.
Basically. Thanks, man.
It's not playing.
Shags froze.
Oh, I thought he was just admiring the shot.
Yep.
She's very well spoken. I'll give her
I like
that. Like,
some-
she has a very nice voice. So it's a shame she didn't sound like that in the movie.
Shags unfroze for a second, then went right back to it.
Yep.
Welcome to every week on the midweek hump.
I already suck, guys. Sorry. I missed what Vex.
Oh, there he
Yep.
goes again.
Loading. No, I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. I mean, praising sex work, making celebrities out of OnlyFans stars. I mean, even all the crap on Twitch, it's just gotten to be a little bit overboard.
Yep. Oh. I think so. She
now
was
we've
on,
lost the background too.
Right. She was on that show Euphoria about all those teens that are just having sex and getting naked all the time.
Sydney
And-
Sweeney and Zendaya.
Yeah, there you go. That's all just more of the same thing. Like, all of these actresses got their start just kind of like
Doing HBO smut.
yeah, like, I don't want to sound like a prude because there are genuinely instances where nudity does work and it can be an advantage to what a character is doing. But it just feels like we've shifted away from that. And it's the HBO formula, right? Like, HBO just started kind of like throwing smut at you, and it was for shock value because no one else was doing that on TV. And then everyone started doing it. And now it's just like it takes the forefront instead of actual like shocking me through narrative or choices or setting. I'm just supposed to be shocked that, oh, there's balls on the screen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Someone
you
said
had that
balls.
whole run of shows like Spartacus and Game of Thrones, obviously, and Black Sails, where at least the first season of all of them, it was just, basically like what Cinemax used to play on
Yep.
Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I liked all the shows, but that's how the HBO and the premium channels seem to think that they get the viewer to come in. They'll then switch it after like season 2 or 3. Like Game of Thrones got a lot less nudity as it went along. Spartacus didn't really, but it was a little bit earlier. And Black Sails kind of stopped it, I think, towards the end. But
Everyone
they
talked
think it
about it.
they think
Like,
it brings the viewers in.
Yeah, like, I remember when all of those shows were premiering, and then you would if you went on any like forum or anything, then everyone would just be talking like, "Oh my god, did you see that? Oh my god, did you see this?" And then I got kind of tempted to go watch it. I'm True Blood. I stuck through True Blood for like all 7 seasons. Please don't judge me. But it started off the same way, right? Like the first 2 seasons, especially, just tits and pussy and ass everywhere. And then they like tapered it off because they're just like, oh, maybe we should do something else. Then it became tits, ass, pussy, and blood on everything. So but people watched. I kept watching because I was like, dang, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, sorry about before. So I'll read these super chats real quick. Joe Atmosphere for $4.99 says it's StreamYard. Pop it full screen for a sec, then reduce it with the rectangle button on the thumbnail for the presenting window. Hell, Shags. What it is actually StreamYard's actually just introduced scenes. So like I was like the scene I was on didn't have a presentation on it, or I had to switch the window. I don't know. It's so now I have to get used to this new
You have
setup.
to do like EV Mux does.
Yeah, well, and I don't mind that. But it's I'm not used to that. I'm used to just like hitting, whatever it is down below.
Yeah, it's going to throw off a lot of StreamYard users.
So, but to be stayed away for another 2. Thank you, sir. Says I have no professional training. Shags. Can confirm. Yeah, I just these are the moments that I continue to lose faith in Hollywood, because like you have a chance to say, hey, I made a movie. And I said this on Monday, but I'm just going to reiterate because since we're all here, like the trafficking of women in sex work is a big deal. And it happens all the time. And there's not one mention of this. It's just, we honor you and we celebrate you and you were such an inspiration. Like, I'm sorry, but there's little to be inspired by when it comes to this. And none of those people in that industry, in their right mind, would stand up in front of like a room full of young people and say, this is a noble profession you should think about getting into. It's safe. You don't have to worry about anything. Like no, people go missing, people die, people live with horrible diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is not good. And again, it's just tone deaf, because Hollywood is, I mean, just the Harvey Weinstein thing alone is like, hello.
Do you remember that year when all of the actresses came with like Me Too wear and all that stuff and the women's names on the dresses and everything? That was what, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and now here we are praising sex work at the same show that would berate allegedly alleged figures for engaging in taking advantage of women sexually. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, it almost seems like the women in Hollywood are realizing that they are technically just sex workers.
Oh, maybe.
I mean, that's
maybe
we know from all the rumors about Weinstein and everything that almost all the actresses did something to get into the positions that they're in, or had to show something. So, I mean, technically, they got paid for doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but there was enough of them. Yep,
that's very true. Very true. I agree with you, Shagsworth. It is very tone deaf. It's like the amount of these like Pornhub's a good example, but there's a lot of these sites that have fallen under like into legal woes or had lawsuits pushed against them for showing material of trafficked girls or underage girls as well, and then not taking it off the platform. So
wait,
very tone deaf.
Leon, where are you going? What do you mean? What do you mean this type of stream? You're out of here? All right, man. Enjoy your pink hat.
We ruined him.
Ruined.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is like, I guess the irony of it all is like, women are beautiful, right? They're like, from a man's point of view and sometimes from a woman's point of view, like women are the most beautiful thing to walk the earth. Like it is our counterpoint in nature. Like they are the yin to our yang, however you want to say it. And like, I mean, at least for me, like to celebrate every part of that woman, So again, like, do men and people and women out there want to see the most beautiful version of that? Absolutely. Do we, like, in some small respect, do women objectify themselves on a daily basis to maybe find the fit in their life, to find their mate? Sure. But like, this is, I don't know, it's just getting to a whole new level of I guess we said degeneracy, where it's like it's just taking it a little too far. Where now it's no longer a temple. It's just I don't even know. I could be really vulgar and gross.
No, you're good. I
mean,
think I get what you're
it's kind
saying.
of reducing a large group of women down to one thing.
Yeah.
No. And that's too bad. I think, like, to me, when I talk about this stuff and when I'm making a case for this to not happen, I'm like, hold yourself to a higher standard. Like, you don't need to reduce yourself down to this, because that's how I think of it. It's like, now you're just making yourself into an object.
Standards? You think standards still exist?
Yeah. Nope.
Well, and we've talked about it. We've talked about some of this before. I mean, how long is it going to be before, all of these women doing OF now have kids, and their kids, I mean, the normal or the weird kid is going to be the one whose mom's butthole is not on the internet.
God, that's so weird.
I mean, that's where we're getting.
Right? That is kind of weird, actually.
Oh.
I
Wow.
mean,
Dang.
It always comes down to buttholes on this stream, I feel like.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that about buttholes, because like I work with kids, right? And it used to be like, oh, you were the cool kid if you had a phone in school, right? And now
Right.
it's like everyone makes fun of the kid that doesn't have a phone.
Yeah.
Like in the 3rd or 4th grade, not having a phone is a sin now socially.
Yep.
Which is
And it's
pretty crazy.
pretty horrible for them. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I wanted to sticking within like Hollywood and movies and stuff. There's something interesting that I was realizing today. I was at the gym, and while I do my cardio at the gym, I usually watch. I've been watching 24. Been rewatching it from the beginning, and something that I noticed about this show that I didn't in the past is, so I have been sort of vocal about anti-woke creators and how they've been approaching a lot of this stuff, and how they're just as guilty a lot as the people that they claim to fight against. And so as I was watching 24, I realized that a lot of the stuff that people are complaining about right now being in games are in shows that a lot of people hold in just high regard from the past. In the example, there's a couple moments in 24 where they're very, very like disparaging to like the ultra nationalist, like, this is America, like, get out of here if you don't like it, or like they're like bashing the US because they're trying to strong arm another country or something like that. Like the sentiment that you get from the show is that America bad. And if that show were to come out now, there would be video on video on video about how 24 is anti-American, and they're trying to, clip our wings in some way. You know what I mean? Like they would have that very same attitude that you see, like, and even the women, there's a few women in that show that are very strong personality, but not like in an insufferable way, like it makes sense. Like they're women in just a position of power. But again, if that were released now, everyone would be like, oh my God, but retroactively, no one's looking at that saying, it's still like a great show. Like 24, I think is one of those shows that people generally like and hold in high regard. So I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a couple factors to consider. Like the social climate is definitely the biggest one, because a lot of these anti-woke people now are the way they are because there was like that nice period for like 4 or 5 years where you were just kind of bombarded with it. So it's like an oversaturation leads to outrage, right?
Right.
But then the other thing is as you pointed out, this wasn't something that just sprung out of nowhere. This is something that was like in the making for the better part of a century. It just hasn't become painfully obvious until the last decade or so, 15 years at most. So,
and I think John also nailed it in the chat. Part of the reason we didn't care was because the writing was actually good on a lot of those shows. And we've gotten worse and worse writing, which makes everything else less acceptable. And the other thing is, although there probably was an agenda, the agenda wasn't out there front and center back then. I mean, we've seen it front
Creativity
and
was
center,
still
center
front and
lately.
center. Yeah.
Well, there's also a balance
Yeah.
too. I think there's an acceptable balance of like, like when you read a story, you're a lot of times you're getting the story from the perspective of different people, right? So there's that antagonist is going to have way different ideals that they're trying to push versus the protagonist and even the people in between. Whereas like in this is the very same thing. Like you have people who are clearly, they're American, but like they're just trying to protect who they are. They're obviously like Republicans because I think at one point like, oh, this fucking towel head, like we got to kill him, because he's trying to wage war on us. And actually, funny enough, it was Nick Offerman that was playing this character. Yeah. But yeah, no, it became so clear to me like the difference in the quality of writing, and then also like the same things were kind of happening, but I think they were happening in ways that were balanced. Like you had the anti-American sentiment written in there, but you also had the pro-American stuff. But I don't know if you guys have watched 24 at all to any extent.
Not since it aired.
Okay.
I watched it. I watched every episode when it aired. It was one of the must-watch shows. You couldn't miss one.
Yeah. Well, what's impressive about it, I think, is the first season, I think, was actually not as good as the second season. But the
first season was more proof of concept that you could do a show that is basically 24 hours.
Right. There was some pacing issues at the first season that I was like, when I on my second or third watch through, whatever it is at this point, like I was like, holy crap! Like some of this middle stuff is like almost unnecessary. But okay, I get it. But it was proof that people could write, because writing 24 episodes and like have you like attached to those characters for that long it's difficult. It's not easy.
24 1-hour episodes.
Yeah. So yeah, I was impressed. I'm even more impressed now that I'm sort of watching it and I'm still engrossed in what's going on. Even though I think I've seen the first 3 seasons twice at this point. So
did that come out very late 90s and into the early 2000s, or
that was 2002. Like 2004. Oh, 2002. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean,
RaikenNight is here.
That may explain some of the sentiment being expressed based on what was going on politically at that time.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Raiken.
How's it going?
Hi.
RaikenNight, I don't know if you know Vex Electronica, but she is a very talented YouTuber as well. Very opinionated woman.
I do not. Nice to meet you.
Knight, it's a pleasure to meet you as well. Dang, like Shags is gassing me up. Like, God damn. I'm half asleep. I gotta improve my game now. Shit.
Don't worry, we can do an unhinged on Vex Electronica later tonight.
But yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. I think the 24 marathon is actually, I got my 7-year-old into like watching it for some reason.
Dude, my old like middle school teacher was obsessed with 24. Like she had pictures of like the dude all over like the classroom.
Yeah, Shags is wearing a Kiefer shirt.
Yeah.
My wife made this for me because I love
it. That's kind of sweet then.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't go buy this or anything. She made it for me for Christmas. So no, well, I know the later seasons get a little rough, but the first 5 seasons are like they're so well. So I call the first 5 seasons the Bauer Palmer arc. So it's Jack Bauer and then David Palmer.
President Palmer.
Yeah, he's the Allstate guy. So that's their arc basically, and it's one of the best arcs that have ever taken place in my opinion. Season 6 was okay, but it kind of undid some of the stuff that had happened previous. Mm-hmm. So
was that the season that they brought in the hot redhead chick?
No, I think she was in season 4. Oh no, I'm thinking of No, that was season 7, I think. Season 6 was still Kiefer, but
Okay.
so at the end of season 5, he gets like captured by the Chinese government, and then like that was supposed to be like it for him. Like they wanted to take him and like execute him, and then all of a sudden, I think he showed up again, and it was like, wait, what? Like, okay, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was a very. I remember when it came out, I was like, why are we still doing this? This should have ended. But anyways,
I have to go back and watch that.
it's good,
I
man.
did enjoy it. I just haven't seen it in years.
Yeah.
Well, decades.
Never watched it.
So I don't think Mike's coming, and that's fine. Maybe I'll have a convo with him another time. But I did want to talk about in chat. If you guys have watched it, feel free to pipe in. And anyone else here, Reiken, I don't know if you've watched Daredevil yet, but I've had the pleasure of watching.
I don't have Disney Plus, so
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Good
Put
man.
on an eye patch, man, and get your R's right. There you go. Easy
right.
way to watch it.
There you go. So we can talk about this a little bit, and you guys, I guess, can talk about it from a general point of view without really knowing much. I'll try and keep it spoiler free if you guys want to watch it on your own and not get spoiled.
I'm not going to watch this show whatsoever. My time is too precious.
Fair. That's fair.
I have to watch them after we're done here tonight for comics show tomorrow. So
Okay.
I just haven't gotten to them yet. I never watched the first set of.
Oh, don't even
Daredevil,
bother. Don't watch anything until you watch those. Seriously. Like
Yeah,
it's,
So you want me to go through all those seasons tonight before the show tomorrow?
Yes.
Oh, I guess,
and it will
I
be worth
mean,
it.
So do this. Do this. Watch those first 2 episodes and then go back and watch everything before you get through this one. For sure. You need to see the first 3 seasons. The 3rd season's okay, but
That first season, especially, though, that's probably like top 10 best things Netflix has ever put out. That first season.
yep.
Daredevil was like peak
Phenomenal.
Netflix TV show.
Yeah.
I think in some regards, it was like it set such a high bar for like Marvel television. And I think that was, they set the bar so high, and not one other show, maybe the Punisher.
I'd say Punisher, and I'd say like the first season of Jessica Jones was good.
Yeah. But like, even like, I don't think it surpassed, I wouldn't say it surpassed Daredevil season 1.
No, but I think it was still really good, and the villain for Jessica Jones was really good, and it was like really memorable.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like Luke Cage was another one. Like the Cottonmouth was one of the best villains that we had seen, even though they killed him, which was unfortunate. But like they should have kept him going, honestly. But
yep.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel television, when it first started on Netflix, was like, it was setting a pretty high bar for what Marvel was capable of.
Yeah.
Fuck, what Netflix was capable of as well.
And Netflix.
It just went downhill when they did the Iron Fist. That was the only one. That was the one to me that was just complete hot trash.
They made the Iron Fist show just so they could have that. What was
Defenders.
Yeah, there
the
we
Defenders.
go. Because even Luke Cage, I was just like, this isn't bad, but it's not that great. But yeah, I agree with you. Iron Fist, I was just like, what is this? And then I didn't bother watching the Defenders because I was so off put with Iron Fist.
Yeah, I didn't watch Defenders either. I'll be 100% honest. It just wasn't. Once Iron Fists was like kind of a dud, I just kind of let it.
It was a worse version of Arrow, because they pretty much had the same backstory. They disappeared.
Yeah.
They got trained, and then they came back.
Yep.
But Arrow did it better for the first 2 seasons.
Yep. So Daredevil picks up seemingly right where it previously ends, but the first like 15 minutes are there's a fight between, let me back up a little bit. Karen, Foggy, and Matt Murdock are all like coming out of a bar. They're like, or coming out of work, and they're going to go to a bar and talk and laugh and blah, 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 blah. And then there's Foggy is like hiding someone in his apartment, and there's someone trying to break into that apartment and hurt him. So that's when Matt Murdock runs and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go help him. And it was a distraction to kill Foggy. We don't know why, but they shoot him. Bullseye shoots him. And then a big CGI, what looks like a CGI fight ensues. And again, I think Vex and we were talking about this before the show, but it looks like they tried to mimic the hallway sequence where it was like one long shot, and they did a really bad job. It just didn't. It was the Disney Plus version of it. It was the Disney Plus version. I see you have your hand up, Vex. Is there something you'd like to say? Sorry,
I didn't want to interrupt you. Okay, sorry. Can you? I think you said this already, but what's the continuity? Like, does this take place right after the events of season 3 of the Daredevil show? Is there?
Does it acknowledge She-Hulk?
There's no direct link. They don't like recap something that happened. It's just like they're all coming out of their law firm, and they're like just going for a drink afterwards. And yeah, that's really it. And like, it's in the past only because like Foggy dies on the street.
Only because they then have a time jump.
Yeah, he dies on the street. He throws Bullseye off the building, which was brutal to watch. But but still, like kind of this like CGI weirdness. And then it's 1 year later, and he's given up the vigilantism. He's not Daredevil anymore. He's just being a lawyer and trying to do good, like through the law.
So then I have a follow-up question. Sorry, is it hinted to in these first 2 episodes that this show is like it's been influenced by the multiverse thing?
There is no indication of that, other than at one point Wilson Fisk is sitting at his desk and he's talking. He mentions a guy with a skull on his shirt, a man in a spider uniform, and a guy with devil horns. That's the only thing that like sort of ties everything like together. That Spider-Man exists in this universe, and that also the Punisher. But I would have assumed that anyway. And I think we've already seen Bernthal in promos.
But not a She-Hulk and a law firm for super villains.
Did not see anything about She-Hulk at all yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
Is She-Hulk in the 616 film universe?
Yeah, because
Charlie Cox, Daredevil was in She-Hulk.
Yeah,
but that's why I'm asking: is She-Hulk 616 canon, or is that a different universe?
We only had the one season. I don't know what we actually know about it.
Hold on. Okay, let me Google this. Okay.
Yeah. So my one of my criticisms of this is that so you need to sort of understand who all these characters are. So watching the Netflix show is important. They don't do any sort of like recap. You're supposed to know who they are. So essentially this is season 4, like kind of. And then you almost need to, in order to understand like Fisk's arc, you need to have watched Echo. He does have the scar on his face.
Okay. So I do have a bit of a timeline for you. But I mean, it's Google, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
So this take place, it's implied that Born Again is set shortly after the blip in 2023.
Oh, okay.
Blip?
So some people aren't around.
Yeah,
The
how like
blip
Thanos erased half of...
Thanos' snap.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which would explain why Spider-Man's not around.
Yeah, but this is canon, so this is Earth 616. So it is taking place where all the other MCU stuff is taking place.
Yes, they do show at one point his yellow helmet that he wore during, which was kind of weird. But yeah, so tonally, the first episode is not on par with the Netflix show. It is not. So like there's a lot of practical effects in the original one. This, like, again, it seemed like they leaned on some weird like post-production CGI, which I thought was a weird choice. And the pacing of the first episode was very strange. It didn't like like a show that should have hooked you back into this world with Matt Murdock. Like they tried with that fight, but it just didn't happen in the same way. Episode 2 does this because so he's basically he's given up the vigilante. He's not going to do it. And then by the end of the second one, he's sort of like on board with it again. And also Wilson Fisk has been elected mayor of New York. So he's given up, he's had his own aha moment and he's like, oh, I'm not going to be a bad guy, but I'm going to run for mayor. He wins, which I almost think they're playing with the whole like Trump thing, like a bad guy becoming they don't say it explicitly. They don't even mention modern politics or anything, but I get the feeling like, cause you have like half the people being like, yeah, he's awesome. And the other half being like, oh my God, he's so awful. But yeah, Joe, you're right. They really did hit the gas pretty good. They brought in a much darker tone. There's a big exchange between Fisk and the police commissioner. Like the commissioner does not buy that he's like on the up and up. You know, he calls him Kingpin. It's like once a thug, always a thug type of energy. Even like Matt Murdock. So in the promos of this show, you see Matt Murdock and Kingpin like sitting across from each other in a diner, and there's
Oh, he froze.
He does that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have heard that who is it? D'Onofrio is playing Fisk.
Yeah, he was great in the.
I've heard that both leads are chewing up scenery, doing a good job. It's just most people aren't all that happy with the tone of the show. Just
honestly, yeah, like Shag said, after you watch those first 2 episodes, go and watch the original. It is very perfectly cast. The actors do justice to everything. Oh God, that first season especially is some of the best TV you will ever watch. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't care a whole lot about the comics background.
Oh, dude, I don't give a fuck about comics, and I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah,
you don't really have to care about.
Because the only time I've had to get into comics is since I got into YouTube and kind of in this side of the world. It's like, all right, I guess I'm watching these things, but I never read comics. I like watched the X-Men cartoon when I was a kid.
Well, what's nice about it too is like it's because even though it's like a comic book TV show, it's the first season especially is very grounded. There's not like other than the fact that you have to get over the fact that a blind guy can like fight people.
Well, I've seen the Daredevil movies. I know the character to a degree.
Like, so you get past that, it's like it's fairly grounded. So it's like there's not like this like over the top like he's fighting like people with superpowers. It's just him fighting like
street level
thugs, and it's that's kind of nice because like you have a nice like just baseline for the show without it. And it just slowly like ramps up, and even when it ramps up, it doesn't get too ridiculous.
Yeah. They do their due diligence because you can tell that Marvel took a risk on it, Netflix took a risk on it because this had no connection to the MCU at the time. This was meant to be its own separate universe of things, and then just as the whole MCU thing started to crumble, then they're just like, oh, here's a character people love that we can bring in to the mainline universe now, right? So you can see that the work has been done to make this stand on its own 2 feet, and it does so very like magnificently, near perfectly.
You know what's funny is like Marvel's only controversy at the time was the fact that the Daredevil was not in his suit.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, people were bitching about that suit when all the reveal pictures came out. Yep.
You're talking about the She-Hulk one with the
no. The original, when the first
one series.
Yeah, just like the black.
Yep.
Because it didn't look like the Daredevil. It was like everybody was like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't Daredevil." Mm-hmm. And then you watch the season, it's like, you know what? It's fine. It's a fantastic show. We'll live with it.
Yep. I did think that. So when this promo first happened, and it's unfortunate that the TheCommonNerd not here because everyone's saying, "Oh, this is going to save Marvel." Like I do think this is one of those good examples of like great editing in a trailer doesn't always mean great show. And I'm not saying the show isn't great. Like the second half of the second episode was very reminiscent of the first season. Like I felt like, okay, now this show is ramping up. The first episode was very slow. It was very clear that this was a Disney Plus show.
Am I wrong in saying this? I thought I heard from somebody in the sphere that had like got a sneak preview of like the Daredevil, or like new people that were working on the Daredevil, that it's going to be like a really slow burn until like the end, until like you get towards like the last couple episodes, and then things really ramp up. That's at least I thought I heard that rumor for the Daredevil.
I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if it's is that way, and it's like these couple episodes are okay, then if it does get better and like starts to ramp up throughout the season, then I'd like hopefully maybe it might do something good for Marvel.
But it might kind of bore you along the way if nothing's really going to happen until the end of the season.
It's true.
Yeah.
Even if it's good, it can be boring if it's just filler and just let's get to the climax.
Yeah.
You know?
It depends on how, like, again, the pacing of it. Like you can have something slowly paced, I think, but like in between there needs to be like some growth and like, and I hate to say it, but like violence. Like Daredevil is a very violent like comic, and just like Moon Knight. Like Moon Knight was like, it was honestly pretty depressing to watch because Moon Knight's such a violent vigilante. Yes, Vex.
Question from the lady.
You in the back. You colored lady.
Okay. So I have another question.
Yes.
So these first two episodes so far, so because I'm hearing that, there's bits of the original series, but now there's bits where it's very clearly a Disney Plus show. Can you tell that they had to start from scratch? And that would probably explain some of the creative choices that you've made note of so far.
No, I think they're just leaning too heavily into the fact that who these characters are, and that's why. Like, so in the original,
so they're not really trying to hook new viewers. They're just assuming that the people that watch the original will return.
Yeah. Like that's why I was saying, like, it seems like season 4 more than it is Born Again. I mean, it's Born Again because he loses faith in the whole vigilante thing, and since it hit so close to home, I have to abandon this, right? I can't do this anymore. The problem is the hook wasn't like hooky enough. Like, yes, Foggy dying is sad and all, but like, I don't know, he's such a tertiary character in my opinion that like, oh, he's dead. Oh no, like, I don't know. Like it didn't seem like quite enough. It seems
like that would have to be part of them having to redo it a couple times, because originally the original characters were not going to be back. It was just going to be
they were dead originally. Like
so
they
just brought them back and killed them off instead of actually bringing them back, is what it sounds like to me.
I remember like when this was first announced and when the script leaks were happening for it, Karen and Foggy were kind of killed in some accident off screen, and they weren't going to return. And then I think it was the second time the show got rebooted, then there was like, we got to bring them back, guys. We got to bring them back.
Yeah.
And, well, there was some fan outrage that they weren't bringing back the full cast.
That too, yeah. So that's why I'm just like, because you said there's a full CGI fight. I'm just like, was that a creative decision, or was that because they were on a time crunch, and with all of the rewrites and reboots of this series, they needed to get something out, and this was cheaper than having to film the actual sequence?
Do you think I could throw it up and just turn the sound off and show you what I mean, or do you think it will still get hit with?
It will probably still get hit.
Like,
do you monetize these streams, or
I don't? I don't monetize them. No.
Oh, then you'll be fine.
Then you'll get hit, but who cares? You can just cut it out afterwards.
Okay, I'll show you guys what I mean in this fight, because it has that like that sheen on it that you're like, this doesn't look. It's that uncanny valley thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Hold on, let me find Disney Plus. There we go.
So what happened with the chick? Because
she's
they brought
around.
Both of them back, right?
Yeah, so she basically they're together and or they're all having a night out, and then it happens, Foggy dies, and then she goes away like I can't be around you type thing. Like I don't want to be like it.
So
the
you had
memories
fan
are-
outrage to bring back all the original cast, and then they just get rid of the original cast immediately.
essentially, yeah. I mean, like it
Seems
is
like a Disney move.
It's a trope, right? It's like it's those inciting incidents are common where someone close to the hero dies, and that motivates them to the next step or diverts them. Let me.
I'm
bring up-
so glad I stuck around to listen to this because now I'm just like, oh, thank God I have no interest in this show.
Let me.
I mean, Shags is still technically saying it's good, and Joe's atmosphere in the chat is still saying it's good. I'm just trying to figure out where it's good.
Yeah, like what exactly is so? Why should I be watching this? Someone answer that question for me. Why is it crucial that I should watch Daredevil Born Again?
Why is this one the one to give a chance?
the like I said, the first episode's just kind of rough.
Doing
Sorry.
a great job selling.
So you
it,
just
Greg.
don't think there's enough episodes out to have a real decision on which way it's going?
I mean, that's a
Or do you
fair
think it is
opinion to have.
ramping up?
Yeah, can you guys see this?
Yeah,
Yes.
but we just lost Raiken.
Oh, where'd it go?
There I
You
am.
probably
go.
didn't transition him into the new scene.
Okay, so you can see this, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I am turning the sound off though, or it doesn't matter.
If you're not monetizing it, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's just really corny CGI.
Yeah. Bro, this
Yeah.
looks terrible.
Penny, what's going on? Are you okay? Foggy, he wanted to know where you were.
It's the transition between real scenes and CGI scenes, essentially.
Yeah. So this is the scene that I was like. This is the scene they're trying to mimic the fight in the
It doesn't even look like he's actually making contact with anybody.
right.
Hold
And
on.
the guy's just throwing knives into him too, like one after another.
You know when you go to a DVD and they show you the behind the scenes footage of how your favorite scene was shot, that's what this looks like right now.
Right.
I'm not watching what the camera picked up on. I'm watching what the documentary guy picked up on. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, like
go ahead.
it just like the room feels like it has no depth to it at all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it just I don't know if it's like how they shot it, if it's like because they didn't actually build a set for them to do this in, and it's just like a lot of green screen or something. And the smoke, it looks just terrible. I don't know why they decided to do the smoke.
This is a
I guess
post-production issue.
Yeah, I guess it's just like because like the fight scenes look really terribly choreographed. So like if you throw some smoke in there, maybe you can hide some of that. But it's just like, yeah, I get the now I see what you mean by the uncanny valley. It looks weird.
Yeah.
This is terrible, Shags. Oh,
Yes,
there I
this-
see the green screen there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it just like transitioned.
So let me fast forward again to
Again, another post-production issue.
Yeah.
so there's a couple good elements of this. Like what I do like is like you have Foggy's heartbeat in the background that's like kind of going like it's an interesting
Mhm.
like choice in there. Like I think at one point there's also this like ticking, like the time is ticking down. So I do like there are elements that I do like of this. But yeah, this whole thing was like I'm trying to emulate something that we already did beautifully in the first one, but I'm doing it worse now. And they added so many special effects to it.
There's
Yeah,
no
it's like-
perspective here.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that's missing from all these shots. Like like when I remember the first season of the original Daredevil show, it got really gritty and it got really in your face, but you could feel it from Matt's perspective, like jumping into this fight. Now I'm just an outsider, but I don't feel like an outsider it's like a ghost watching things almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perspective that doesn't add any weight. It doesn't have any emotional impact. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be excited about this scene.
Yep.
It's just empty.
Yeah, because like the thing about like the original show is like you felt like you were actually in New York. I don't feel like I'm in New York at all. I know it's just in buildings, but like there was something about being in those buildings that felt very New York, and this just doesn't feel like that.
There was a shot I want to show you. So I'm not going to show any more of this. If you guys want to, like, I think this show is worth watching. This is the worst part of the show, unfortunately.
Can you sell us like a scene that is worth watching?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a couple of different things that I thought were really kind of cool that they chose to do. This is small, but when I watch film, I do like really try and key in on some things.
Mm-hmm.
This is Matt Murdock just getting dressed. He runs his hand across his jackets, picks a jacket out, okay, gets dressed, and then let's see. Then we go to Fisk, and I thought this shot was really interesting of them showing the first shot you see of him is him upside down in his white, which to me signified like almost like a tarot card upside down, meaning like the opposite of what it was. In this case, he like the way we're trying to see him, or they're trying to say is that he is not this person anymore. Because he wants us to see him that way as I'm a good guy now. I'm trying to be better.
It's like the mirror version of him.
Yeah, I'm all zenned out. And then it goes to here where he's doing pretty much the exact same thing that Matt did.
Okay, yeah, Shags, let me get this straight, okay? I asked you to sell me on this show, and you go from showing me a bunch of really shitty action scenes to niggas getting dressed? Are you for real right now?
Listen, I know you're a fan of cinema, and I know this stuff matters to you.
Well, I will say it's like it feels like you went from one show to another show, because it's like just based off the cinematography, the other one looked really cheap, whereas this one, what we're seeing now, looks a much better production. It's like you're like
there's thought out shots.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like two different production companies worked on the same show.
Yeah, it was definitely overproduced in post-production. Like it was, there was too much added. Because again, like he's touching his jackets. He puts his hand on the white jacket, which like he wants to go to, but doesn't, because we're about to find out why. He's like, I like this, but going here.
The old me.
This is cut and paste before they decided to rewrite everything. That's what this screams to me.
And then I thought, so I'm trying to figure out where'd it go?
Stupid tracksuit.
This painting here is like the Tsar of like Russia. Like when you first see it, it's like really zoomed in. I think you see it right after this. And I know there's a reason we see this, and I'm trying to figure out exactly.
That's how the season will end, man. Matt's gonna be holding Karen or some shit like that, or Fisk will be holding Matt.
Well, this was the Russian Tsar, and this was his son who he hit over the head too hard and killed. I don't remember exact. So again, this is why I want to like research this painting a little bit and its origins, because I do think there's some foreshadowing
message
that we're seeing here, which again, like, I know the pacing is off. The opening was not a good hook. It really fell flat, but this opening sequence, I was like, whoa, like you said, Raiken, I was like, wow, this is a totally different tone all of a sudden. It's still not on the level of Netflix season 1, but very well, but I mean, obviously thought out. Like in my opinion, they thought about all of these shots.
You know what this is foreshadowing, Shags? The Tsar is Disney, and you with the bloody head, that's the person he's holding.
Yeah.
That's what this is foreshadowing. You keep
Sucker.
falling for Disney's tricks.
They clubbed you just a little bit too hard.
Right.
Yep.
Please watch our new show. Don't die. Just watch it first.
Right. It's really good. Just kidding, bitch. Dead. Yeah.
Well,
I like
yeah, I
the
was
reference to
gonna say-
Zelensky and his tracksuit, though.
Let's see. Was there anything? There's a lot. Like, so again, like the pacing in here is kind of bad. Like he throws the dude off a building, like nearly head first, and he's still alive. And
Who threw somebody off a building?
Matt Murdock, like he throws Bullseye like off the building, and like he just lands splat on the road, and then but he's still alive, and he ends up serving like 11 consecutive life sentences is what he's sentenced to. A lot of this is just setting. This whole episode is setting up characters that are new. So he's working with this lady here. They're about to take on. Or is that the second episode or the first? Oh, fuck, I forget.
And is she better than the lady she's replacing?
No, she's fine. Nothing of note has really happened with her yet. She set him up on a date with her friend, who's also like a therapist. And at first he's all like bummed, like realizing what happened, but then they end up hitting it off. So that's going to be his love interest for the season. Which also
I thought him and Karen were on good terms at the end of the original Daredevil show, weren't they?
They're just friends. They say that like in the beginning because he's like, oh, let's go, whatever. And she's
That's kind of
well, after she found out about the one night stand with She-Hulk, I mean, things weren't gonna.
They fought. Hold on. They fought in She-Hulk.
That was what is implied.
was
Yeah.
like-
that was the whole thing in She-Hulk was they brought in Daredevil and had him have a one night stand with She-Hulk, and
Well,
then
and
do the
what
walk of shame the next morning.
Yeah, I was going to say like they made him do the walk of shame instead of She-Hulk.
Yep.
Ew! Oh.
Like he was like was walk of shame carrying his boots.
Yep.
And everything. Holding his boots and everything.
I didn't see this. Soul Assassin says Shags is trying to get Vex interested in the painting to watch and discuss the show every week with him. Solved. Yeah. So yeah, Foggy's death essentially separates them. It sounds like she distances herself, and she doesn't even want to be around him. But even like in the bar, like they're kind of kidding about it all and not really being an item. So where is she? So this whole interaction was just like it was in the promo. Like they're just sizing each other up. He basically says, if I'm elected, like there's not going to be any vigilantes. Like they're like, don't even try it. Like if you try it, I'll shut you down.
So Kingpin knows Daredevil's identity.
Yeah. And then Matt was like, well, if you're being a piece of shit still, if you're still Kingpin, like, I have my eye on you, essentially. And so this is the lady that sets up. She's a therapist. They're dating.
Is it really a threat if a blind man has his eye on you?
Excuse me. What was I going to say about this?
Sorry.
She ends up in the second episode. You find out right at the end that she is actually going to be a couples therapist for Kingpin and his wife. So that is like sort of setting up the now Kingpin is probably going to know their dynamic.
So we're emasculating the Kingpin by making him go do couples therapy.
Yeah.
Why is she so much taller than Matt?
She's standing on the curb and he's standing below.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, I thought they were in like some sort of like gala hall or whatever. Man, this is how terrible this set design is. I can't even tell where these people are supposed to be.
This was another decent. So after he leaves her, he's like, everyone's like celebrating the fact that Fisk won. This little sequence was pretty good too. Some of the music choices were really odd. But then, like for the first time again, you see the red light popping up on him, like it's starting again, and like this shot of looking up, and he's been elected obviously at this point, but vastly different shot. It's blue. He's looking down. Like the Daredevil's waking up within him. And maybe these are cheap tricks that I'm just falling for.
Just because he got elected? I mean, if you gave up vigilantism for a full year because your friend died, and then your arch nemesis gets elected to office, why would that automatically be like, all right, time to give it up?
Well, even at this point, he is not fully on board with it. I think his apprehension is he's pulling the wool over everyone's eyes. Like, people don't realize how bad that Kingpin is. Some people know his past. Again, this is where I think they're trying to draw the corollary with someone like Trump. That like some people believe he's this like super criminal, and other people believe he's just someone who's out for their interests is going to make the place better. Again, they don't explicitly say that. I'm just sort of
inferring.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen that in a lot of stuff, but nobody really expected Trump to win again. So I don't know that they were shooting scenes with the plan that Trump would be back, unless they were referring to the past. And at that point, it would have been useless to bring it up. Because you can see in every other show, they really did not believe he was going to win again.
Right. No,
every show is designed with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would still have been the president that they were thinking that they were playing off of.
Right. And like
so since you like to call out every now and then going a little too far, I think you may be reading into this one a little bit, Shags.
I totally could be. And
of course, I haven't seen it, so I can't say.
The first episode, I wanted to point out that there's a few moments that were just, especially in the beginning, that were not convincing. They weren't very good. There were some good shots. I will probably watch it again just to try and like focus in on them a little bit and see if I can pick up on more. The second episode really gets into. So in the second episode, he takes on a case that is like going against the NYPD, and with like corruption and stuff like that. And he finds that someone was acting as a vigilante accidentally kills a police officer, and it starts this whole other ball of wax that kind of kickstarts in his mind, like, do we need a real vigilante? What's wrong with other people taking it on? And then we start to see a little bit that like Kingpin is actually still around. He's not this sort of like up and up. Like, yeah. I want to be a good guy.
Our lady friend needs to go to bed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not see.
No, you're good, bro. You're good. I'd like to stick around, but like, fuck, man, it's almost 1 a.m. for me, and I was supposed to be in bed 3 hours ago now. So
holy shit. Well, thank you for sticking as long as you did. That's really awesome of you. I hope you give Daredevil a chance.
I'm not gonna give Daredevil a chance. You just keep trying to sell it to me, though. Like, give me a reason to watch this, and I'm just going to laugh when at at episode 5. It's just going to go completely off the rails and lose you altogether. I'll laugh, but I won't laugh in your face.
It's possible. You could be right. But do you have anything interesting that you want to like promote?
Well, thank you for having me on. It was great to meet Raiken for the first time, and Brahmabull, always a pleasure. I stream every Sunday on my channel, 10 a.m. Eastern, early morning Vexhibitionism. I usually just review a movie or show that I've watched that week. I don't know what I'm going to review this Sunday. I'm really down the Attack on Titan hole. I can't leave this hole. So maybe I'll just watch one of the live action movies and review that. I don't know. But I'm scripting a video right now as well. probably going to be out next week. I don't know. That's about
Cool.
it. Yeah, that's about it. You can find me on, I'm not on Twitter as much anymore, so you can find me where you find me. There you go.
Follow Vex on Twitter and bother her on Twitter as well, but follow her on YouTube. She's very, very insightful. Much
Thank
respect
you.
for her opinions. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Everyone, take it easy and have a great rest of the week.
All right.
Night,
See you,
Vex.
Vex. Wait till AI VR porn is gonna shut. It's gonna shut up down.
I think Omni is still at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, I don't know.
When we were talking about Honora.
Oh, right. I do want to convince people to give this. I you know, you're either gonna watch these shows or you're not at this point. Like, it was very smart of them to release the first 2 episodes of this show, because the first episode was not a good seller on what was going to happen. The second episode crushed it. It really showed like what, okay, now we know what's going to happen. I mean, it ends in a brutal beatdown, and it's very reminiscent of Netflix. Go Cat.
So are they doing 6, 8, or 10?
That I don't know. Let's
because you can't afford to have episode 1 be slow and useless in a 6 or 8 episode season.
Let's see.
Back when we were getting 24 episodes of things and 20 episodes of things, you could have a slow episode every now and then. Better not be the pilot for your show, but anymore they keep throwing in filler episodes in seasons that aren't long enough to survive a filler episode. Joe's Atmosphere says 9 episodes. Down from the original 12. Shags is frozen again, so.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to end up waiting until everything comes out, see how everybody else that reviews all this stuff, see how they like it. Because maybe it ramps up, maybe it gets better as the show progresses, but at the moment it's like, it's just not worth my time until, like, I'd rather it all be out and then I just binge it.
Well, it's homework for me, so I guess I'll be watching it for tomorrow night's Comics Division show, but it's not something I would have searched out to watch.
It looks like it's 9 episodes long, which is,
yeah, that's what Joe was saying in chat.
That's an odd run, but maybe they're doing that
like even 10.
Yeah, and maybe they're doing it to see like what the interest is.
Well, there's also comments in chat that it was originally 12 or 13 and has been cut down.
Maybe they were cutting a bunch of stuff that
I was gonna say
they weren't sure people were going to enjoy.
She-Hulk was 9 as well. Interesting. Maybe that's the new format. Lame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Netflix has been doing that too with the 3 sets of 3. Release 3 episodes, wait a month or 2, release 3 episodes. Like Arcane did that, and a few others have done that. Cobra Kai kind of did sets of it. I can't remember how many episodes there were total, but it may have been 3 sets of 3 as well.
I think we answered this. Does Daredevil take place in the MCU? I wonder if they'll bring Spider-Man to the show. We did see, according to Google, that this show is supposed to take place, well,
during the blip.
Yeah, so
Spider-Man doesn't exist at the moment.
I think, and this, I could be, I think the original show was to take place during that. This should take place pretty much right after, so I think we're still within the blip time. Fisk is aware of Spider-Man, so like Spider-Man does exist within this universe, and these characters do know them. But you don't see them, obviously.
Except if it's during the blip, he would have known Spider-Man existed, but Spider-Man wouldn't exist during the blip.
Right.
So easy way to not ever bring him into the show.
Yeah.
Unless you get 5 or 6 seasons in and cover that 5 years.
Well, even if they bring him into the show, they don't even need to necessarily bring Tom Holland in. They could just have like a Spider-Man figure in the show, because if he's supposed to have wiped everybody's memories, then even Daredevil wouldn't know who he is, and he can just
True.
come in. You can do like CGI Spider-Man for like a quick moment, and then have him pop out.
I missed the super chat earlier. Joe Atmosphere came back with another $2. Thank you, Joe. Said it was Frank Miller's Daredevil looking like Zorro. Yeah, from season 1. Yep. Thank you, sir. Sorry I didn't see that earlier. But yeah, the timeline is current, I believe. Oh, let's maybe she when she looked it up.
Maybe that was like the last season.
Yeah.
Well, if it's only 1 year since the end of the last season, that would, I mean, the original run wouldn't have been current time. So if they only do a time skip of 1 year, they're playing fast and loose with time. If that's what they're doing,
yeah,
because that was what 10 years ago that the Netflix was on, or 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, the problem is though they don't say there's no dates. I don't believe with like
Sure.
But this quick little blurb again on YouTube says the time frame appears to suggest the prologue is around 2025, while Daredevil is still active before skipping ahead 12 months to 2026, and then presumably just at the start of 2027 where Fisk gets elected, or 2027.
I guess that would be current time, but that doesn't really fit in with, unless the other one took place slightly in the future.
The character first period.
Who cares? It's Marvel. You can go back and forward in time, and you've got multiverses. So
None of it
time
matters.
doesn't mean crap anyway.
Very true. Damn. Well,
maybe you'll get more clues from more episodes as to whether like Spider-Man is actually around, or if any of the other things from the MCU are actually around.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm like really okay with them keeping them separate because it does work. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say like the less they try to introduce the MCU, I think the better.
Yeah,
right. I think. Go ahead.
I would say they are that we do know that we're gonna have the Punisher. They make hints at it in the second one. There's like some tattoos that you see these guys have that have like the Punisher skull. So it'd be interesting to see who else they try and tie in, but yeah,
It'd be interesting to know when Echo supposedly took place, because if he's got the scars from Echo, and that would also be a weird time mix in there if they're not playing concurrently the way it should have gone. But
yeah,
it doesn't matter to me all that much, the timeline.
Yeah, it obviously is before this, because I mean in probably a considerable amount of time, because his face is completely healed. I mean, it's like you see the scar, but it's obviously been probably years since it's been healed. So it's probably a couple years after Echo. Because I do say, like, what they do say is that he tried to mentor someone, and then he went away, and then like it was he was enlightened. He kind of says like, I kind of found myself, or I forget exactly how he worded it, but yeah. I think people should check this out. My final decision is check it out. If you're not convinced by the end of the second episode, then maybe don't bother. But I think by the end of the second episode, people will think, okay, I can see where this is going. It has definitely the Netflix feel. And where is it? Second episode is a hook. Joe said, I agree. I'm inclined to agree. It is. But Reiken, you've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds. How's that been going for you?
It's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
I know like people have been having issues with the PC port of it, and it like even with my new PC, it does drop frames in certain areas, which has been really annoying. But for the most part, when I'm actually in combat and fighting monsters, it's been pretty smooth. A lot of fun.
I was watching a little bit today. I was like lurking, and yeah, I noticed that the performance seemed to be going really, really well. You know, considering everyone was like, "Oh, this is, you know, it's not working. I can't play this." Like,
yeah, but I have a brand new PC though with the 5080, so I can't really complain.
Yeah,
and I was using some frame generation for that, so
that would not be a good endorsement that it's working. I mean, if you've got the newest and best, and it's still occasionally dropping frames for you, then I imagine what it's doing for everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, and it's mostly just dropping frames in like the areas that you're not you're not fighting monsters. It's like the zones that you're where you're resting and buying stuff. And
safe zones.
Yeah, and mostly one specific zone which has like a lot of like smoke and stuff, which generally is usually like the thing that like stresses out like CPUs when like there's like a lot of
particle
fog and
physics,
clouds,
all that kind of crap.
Yeah, so I think like that's part of the reason is like they just haven't optimized those areas for like the PC, and so it's just like putting a lot of stress on people's PCs.
Okay. Yeah, the few people that I know that have been playing it have enjoyed it. They haven't mentioned much on having any issues, and I know they're playing on PC.
Yeah. And it's like honestly, like the moment I turn like the frame generation on, I haven't had that any of those issues again. So
there's an interesting. I was listening to Pirate Software. I saw one of his shorts come up, and one of the things he was talking about with the frame generation with AI was like with like competitive shooters. He was like, what happens like when you have that turned on and your graphics are trying to anticipate frames and it's the wrong frames, and you know what I mean? Like, so client side, you think you're hitting something, but it's generating frames that are different than what.
Well, it's that, and from what I watched a video from, I think Linus Tech Tips about it, especially when it comes to like FPS shooters, and like, yes, it increases your frame rate for your video games, but it does not increase your ping or your latency. So whatever your latency is at native, it's not going to get better with that frame generation. So it's like, even though like, yeah, your game is playing at 20 frames per second, you still got that normal latency that you have. So like you think you're shooting something like dead on because you got like the really good frame rate, but you're probably not. And so it's like you're getting that falsehood, like you're actually have like good latency.
Yeah.
Because we saw a bit of that with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
There were plenty of times in this last Call of Duty where you're just drilling a guy, you know, with every shot, and you get beat, and it's usually because of the latency.
Yeah. So it's like you get like that false confidence with the frame generation. To me, it's more something like you want for like a game that's very visual, like Monster Hunter, like your Cyberpunk 2077, games that like, yeah, you don't want like terrible latency, but it's like it doesn't matter as much as like a game like COD or CS:GO or Fortnite or something like that.
So it's almost just like upscaling. I mean, it takes what pixels are there and kind of says, well, based on this, it should probably have this next.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny. I was I reinstalled Starfield and I've been messing around with that. I never necessarily hated Starfield. I think I was disappointed with so my experience with it now is much different than when it like.
I liked it for like the first 24 hours that I played it. Like I bought the game, played a ton of it, like for like the first like few weeks, enjoyed what I played. But then like I went back and I played it and I was like, this is really boring.
My memory of it is a whole bunch of people who were defending it based on the whole as thing. About a month later, they were like, no, the game's actually crap. It's not fun.
Well, you put aside the gender stuff. It's just like,
Well, that's
it
what I'm
lacked
saying.
Substance. Like I remember joining the Freestar Alliance, and like the storyline was okay, but then it just like kind of ended abruptly, and I was like, that's it? That's the entire story for like this like faction, and like there was like nothing else to it. I was like, that's kind of lame.
That's kind of why I'm going back to it. Is I was listening to someone, just sort of this neutral game commentator on TikTok, and they were just talking about Starfield. I don't know why that video came across my feed, but they're basically saying like this was one of the best narrative stories that I've come across, and I was like, huh, all right, like, so I'm gonna give it another chance. I'm gonna sit down, because for some reason I can't get into Cyberpunk 2077, but I'm able to like sit down and play Starfield again, and it feels better. Like, I don't know if it's because of the optimization, like the graphics look better. It doesn't like stutter or get screen tearing as much.
I would have to disagree with like the at least playing better in like this. Well, Starfield is actually probably one of the best playing out of the box Bethesda games. I will say that. But I like the narrative better for Cyberpunk. But I do understand like Cyberpunk is really hard to get into, like, until you get past like the prologue, and the prologue is stupidly long.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I never got
long.
past it. That initial assassination mission, I just never cared to get past it. It never hooked me enough to make me go any further.
That's the thing with like a lot of games lately, is that they have these really long like prologues that they force you to go through, and like it like until like, and then once you get past that, then the world opens up, and like that's when you actually get to the good stuff. Like it was like that with like Red Dead 2. It's I'd say Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is like that, and it's like game companies need to really stop doing this, because you're like killing people's like enjoyment of these games, because like they want to get into the sandbox.
Well, that's what I mean, is like, they're like, for all its faults, like there is some handholding with Starfield, but like there, like even in the initial areas, there's places that you can go besides the mainline quest and explore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like,
I'll give that to Starfield. You get into the game right away. Like you do that first little bit on that planet, and then once you leave that planet, it essentially opens up.
Yeah, and like, so for me, it's always like, like fun per minutes played, which like I think everyone thinks that way, but like, like with Cyberpunk, like that initial prologue is like a chore.
It is,
and like even afterwards, like the expectation of that game to me was supposed to be on par with something like GTA, but in a cyberpunk world.
Like I would watch Mark the Cyborg playing, and it's like, oh, he's got all these cool attacks, cool weapons, cool play styles. And then I started playing the game, and the prologue just bored the living crap out of me. And I was like, okay, I don't care to get to all the things that Mark the Cyborg was doing, because I don't care to keep playing at this point.
Yeah. And at some point, like, I know people say, well, you just got to push through. I'm like, I don't need it to be like homework. I don't need it to be a stress. Like, I mean, maybe that's my age talking. Like, maybe, but I
know that me and you both play Souls games and play Elden Ring, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those games drop you in with nothing, and you may die 30 times in the first, 40 minutes.
True.
It's not a roadblock that way. It's the fact that the developer will not let you just play the game the way you want from the beginning. You must do this before you can actually start playing the game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a problem with a lot of these narrative-driven open sandbox games. Is like they really just try to railroad you for like the first 10 hours, and it's like,
yeah,
the point of these games is like people want to get into the open world. and they don't want to be railroaded. They want to go off and fuck around.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't play the GTA games. I don't play. I tried Red Dead.
Mhm.
Again, it just bored the living hell out of me.
Which
And I've heard it's one of the greatest games ever.
It is a fantastic game. I haven't even finished Red Dead, and I love that game because it's just like, well, yeah. Once you get past that, like the first 10 hours, it's like it really opens up, and there's a lot of there's a lot of things you can do, and like just running around and just exploring the world, and it feels like an actual world.
If I had my way with Red Dead, I would log in every day and probably just go hunting in the mountains or something like that. Like that game, unfortunately, in my opinion, does not respect your time, and it's like it's really cool, and it's like super immersive, like so much so that like your Joy-Cons don't even work. You're like, ugh! Like I feel like I'm really on a horse. I'm really using my arm to like throw a rope. Like it's
let's trudge through snow for the next 15 minutes while you get a little bit of exposition, and you can't skip, you can't go faster, you can't do anything. It's kind of like reading a book to me. If a book doesn't hook me in the first like 5 to 10 pages, I'm just not going to continue. I mean, the same thing with a video game. If I do not have any enjoyment in the first, probably 30 minutes to the first hour, I'm out. I just don't care.
Yep. And I think this is this is definitely like the problem with like a lot of like video, like these type of video games lately. It's like, I don't want it to be Starfield where it's lacking narrative, but I also don't want it to be Red Dead 2 or Cyberpunk where it's like, you're trying to throw all of this narrative at me that I can't get into the game and have fun.
Yeah. And this is where I think like people get a lot of these games wrong. And I'm not necessarily going back again on my criticism of Starfield, because like I genuinely want to play through these like these storylines the way I did with like Skyrim. Like Starfield is meant to be more of like a Skyrim or a Fallout, right? Like just like fairly immersive, a lot of different storylines, a lot of different people moving around. Whereas like, something like Avowed, like people were so disappointed with Avowed, but I'm like, the more I look at Avowed, the more I'm like, guys, this was never meant to be the thing that you want it to be. Like you might want it to be the new Skyrim, but like it's the Outer Worlds, like it's similar to what the Outer Worlds did, and it's doing it just fine. And there's so many there are criticisms to be made about Avowed, which we could focus on, but like overall, I think the game like looks good. I think that the combat is good. I think the story, the more I get into it, is pretty interesting, even though I don't know much about like, and that's, again, you could have the criticism that the story takes a little bit too long to like feed you enough information where you care. So like maybe you could reel that back a little bit, but overall, do I think it's a failure of a game? I don't think it's a failure. I think they made the game that they wanted to, and they succeeded at it. But I think people's expectations in their mind are just out of line with what they said they were going to get. And
it's that, and I think it's like people assume that just because it's the studio name is on it, that they think that the game is going to be this certain way. But probably the people that made those great games, like Fallout New Vegas and what are the what is the Pillars of Eternity? Like the people that were there that were making those games may not be there anymore. So like the people that made those things great, it's like you're just assuming that they're just going to be there always and make those great games. It's like a lot of times it's like studios are going to change hands, and they're going to change directions, and people got to realize that.
100%.
And
Dark Souls, and then Dark Souls 2 with the B team. It was still technically Dark Souls, but while I like Dark Souls 2, most people think it is the worst of them. I still enjoy it, but you could definitely tell it's a different team working on it.
Yeah. Oh, it's and it's all part of like, I think the overall like culture that we're in right now is like it's really easy to criticize things, and I think we just want there's things that gamers want, and they see a thing and they're like, oh, that could be it. Like this is the thing, and they attribute that thought to it, and then when it's not there, oh my god, how could they failed? They screwed up. This isn't the new Skyrim. It's like, well, they didn't say it was going to be. Like,
Yeah.
Avowed.
Well, and
They
there's
also shot themselves in the foot
gamers
with-
have different tastes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I have ever played through any Bethesda game because the exact opposite problem of say like Cyberpunk, like Skyrim and what was the other one, Oblivion.
Yeah.
Tried playing them, and I would play for a few hours, not really do anything on the main quest, or get part of the main quest started and then go off on a side thing. And then if I didn't start playing the next day, no freaking clue what's going on anymore. No clue where I logged out. Don't care to find out. I mean, it's the same reason I can't, like, my kids will do Minecraft all day long, and it's like I can't play Minecraft. Nothing about it is, makes me want to care about swinging a pickaxe, getting materials, and doing something else. I like a different style of game than that, and we all like different styles of games. I mean, everybody who has forever said that Skyrim and all of those games are some of the greatest games ever made. Sure, if you like those kinds of games. Sure, with Cyberpunk. Sure, with a whole bunch of other stuff. There's a ton of people that can't stand the Souls-like games. That's my jam. I was an NES player. I grew up on the NES. I love difficulty and being thrown into something. Doesn't even have to have a story.
Yeah.
Just let me start going. I don't care if I'm the guy that skips every cutscene. I do not give a crap what's going on. Let me keep playing. I don't want a movie. I want a game.
Yeah, and see, I think like the Souls games are cool, and I like to watch other people play them. But it's definitely one of those things where it just like it doesn't pull me into the world because there's not much to the world. It's just like you're going and you're fighting these big, crazy, hard bosses. To me, at least. And I know there is like something to the world, but like to me, you get thrown into these worlds, and like I feel like there's no purpose other than to go and kill these big bosses.
And I think I'm probably a good 10 years older than you, likely. I'm 43. I mean, growing up on the NES, we didn't need a reason. We didn't need a story. We didn't need anything. And we learned in the arcades and on the NES, like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, games like that, pattern recognition was our style of games.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Souls is. It's pattern recognition. That's when everybody says get good, that is what it is. You learn the pattern and you learn what you can get away with, when you can hit, when you can't. That's why I think people my age kind of have gravitated towards those games. And I think that's why some of the much younger than you probably don't like them all that much, because it's like, well, remember in Pixels when they were talking about the games, if you guys saw Pixels, the Adam Sandler movie?
Love that movie.
When they're talking about like the first person shooter games versus the 80s games that were all pattern based. And he can't figure out why the kid likes playing first person shooters, because there is nothing to recognize or do there. It's just a different mentality of gamer. I think it at some point there's a generational difference there a little bit. It doesn't mean it can't be crossed, but I think it's a preference thing.
It is. I just think like for me, it's like if you're good, like, because like a Dark Souls game is like a kind of more of a commitment for like how big those games are and how many hours you're going to spend into it. I just do like a little bit of narrative to kind of drive me forward, because like I don't always need a narrative. Like if it's like there's just games that are just fun to play because they're fun to play. Like I'll go play a game like Risk of Rain 2, which is just like a roguelike game, it's just a loop. You're doing like kind of like the same thing, but I enjoy that game and it doesn't really have a narrative to it. And I could just pour a couple hours into that game, have fun, do it for a little bit, and then just like put it down and not play it for like a while.
Yeah. Well, like Path of Exile 2, I'm playing right now. I couldn't tell you a single thing that's going on in the story of that, because it's just like skip.
Yep.
On to the next fight, trying to get stronger. That's all I care about.
That's
But
probably
I mean,
a
it
game
does have a narrative, but
yeah,
I couldn't tell you a single. I couldn't even name a character in the game.
yeah, that'd probably be actually that's probably a game where like I probably could play and put like a lot of hours in and just like have fun and not care about the narrative and just care about like the gameplay loop and put it in like a couple hours.
The action
And, like-
RPGs are pretty good for either side of that, whether you want some narrative or you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like for me, like with like action, like it's a game that I can like go play for a while and put it down and not play for a little bit and then come back to and
Yeah,
probably
you
pick up
just got to
fairly
figure out
easily.
where you've got your buttons mapped or what
Yeah.
skills you've got your buttons mapped to remember the cycles.
Yeah, whereas like something like Dark Souls is like it's a lot more skill. So it's like if I don't keep up with that, like I might lose a little bit of that like skill.
Reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to admit that I was playing Starfield again, but it was I don't know, man. Like I get to a point where with like games, I'm just like I need like comfort food with games sometimes, and since I'm spending less time doing it, like
Mhm.
I've been spending more time learning to build games than actually playing them.
Yeah.
And in like some respect, it's like I'm like doing a little bit of research and like, okay, how do I think this system works? But like games like Starfield, like they're not a time sink really. They're just, you go in there and you fly your little ship around and you walk around
Mhm.
your planet, you go through your little delves, clear it, and then you're done, collect your money and on you go. And
Yeah,
that go ahead.
don't get me wrong. I like there is things that I do enjoy about Starfield, and every now and then, like there's something that like pulls me back into like I want to go back and play that a little bit because like there's just like some mechanics that are just like that do make it enjoyable, but it just like I'll only put so much time into that game before I drop it again and I go play something else. Like it doesn't pull me back in for very long. Like I'll probably put it like 10 hours in and then stop and go do something else.
I do like the ships and like the flying. Like I think it feels really good when you're in space. And I know I said all these games serve like their purpose. I didn't play enough of it originally to get into like additional ships and weapons and all that stuff. I've never been like or even never getting into aerial combat. Like it's never been a feature of a game that I particularly care for. But even as like a normie in that sense, like when I get in the ship and I'm like flying around and like it felt good and polished and well done. Again, I think the biggest disappointment with that game was people thought like, oh, these are going to be all unique planets, and it's like turns out it's not. Like there's invisible walls everywhere, and
it's not just like it's not the fact that the planets aren't unique. It's for me, it's more of like they just use the same locations on different planets, like the same like bases that were just like generated on all like
seeing the same resources over and over and over again.
Well, yeah,
which is
the same moon base is like everywhere.
Yeah, in its defense, so like I mean, asset like reusing assets is something that happens all the time, but like at some point you gotta like you can't be so gratuitous about it,
Yeah.
But I feel like there is like because like, and this is going back to like they used to have talent, they probably don't have this talent anymore. Like Bethesda used to be known for making random generated dungeons and stuff. Like that was part of like the original like Skyrim games is like a lot of like the dungeons and stuff were randomly generated. And like they knew how to like build their assets to where like they can kind of move things around to at least make something kind of like different and unique.
Them. Yeah.
Yep. And then like maybe like after like they randomly generate, they can go in and like tidy things up a little bit and like make them kind of unique.
Yeah.
And some of them are like some of like the locations are fairly unique and were a lot of fun, and I did enjoy them, but it just wasn't enough.
I do think too, again, the other thing that's unfortunate about something like Starfield is that it came out at a time where people started being way more critical of Bethesda. Like this is where like this was Bethesda's make or break. They had been talking it up so much, and then like people spent time trying to trying to find these problems and see this thing, like it became a part-time job for people. Whereas again, I think normies, everyday people, the rule, they're playing the game and just being like, I'm flying around the ship and I'm going to these planets and this is totally cool and I have a little base. And then you have the exceptions who are like, oh my God, did you see this thing right here? I can't believe it. Like, never would have noticed that unless you
correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't like all Bethesda games been technically made better through mods? I mean, isn't that a historical thing with their games that they don't always come out the greatest, but the modders typically make them something that is good?
But according to the modders, this new game engine is really hard to work with to mod.
Yeah, I don't think they have the full dev kit to I don't. Yeah, I mean I'm not making excuses for them. The previous games ran on an engine that was way more polished, had way more work done to it, and this was Starfield was a new one, and it was much different. And yes, to answer your question, yes, the previous games, Bethesda games generally out of the box, Bethesda games for the most part
out of the box playable, but mods actually bring enjoyment is kind of what I have heard.
There's sandbox games that allow people to add full areas. I mean, Skyrim, you can get a Cyrodiil mod for do it and play the whole area of Bruma, and people make whole other areas and voice mod them. There so many different things that just change the game, and that's what Bethesda's been known for. And there's always unofficial patches that come out, and modders will optimize the game usually faster than Bethesda will. People have said to me that well, that's not right, and I'm like, well, yeah, but
that's part of the enjoyment of being a PC gamer.
Yeah,
I think Starfield though, probably would have gotten a lot less crap had they eliminated majority of the load screens. I think that is something I think even normies can understand, because there's so many
this
games
day and
now,
age load screens should not exist.
Yeah, because there's so many games nowadays that just don't have load screens that you can play even when Starfield came out. You can just
your load screens are only on death, that kind of thing.
Well, there's just very few and far between, and it's usually because you're going into a major cutscene or a major area that
or instancing.
Yeah. And I think had they not had that, had they somehow got rid of majority of the load screens, I feel like normies probably wouldn't have given it as much crap. You're going to get the hardcore gamers that are going to give the game crap, but I think a lot more people would have played it.
I had that problem with Destiny.
What?
Yeah.
I hated the load screens in Destiny.
Yeah.
Watching the freaking ship fly to another planet, taking, 30 seconds to a minute every time you decided to go anywhere different, drove me freaking nuts.
Yeah. I have a lot of issues with Destiny.
You could have a whole show on why Destiny 2 is awful.
Well, just Destiny and Destiny 2. Either one of them, because when Destiny first came out, I liked running through the story and playing through it, and that was fine. But then I put it down, and then I went to go play it again, and then they got all the DLCs, and it's I couldn't just go start from the very beginning again and run through the entire narrative and enjoy the story. It was just it was just all about the battle passes, and you had to be there at the moment that the battle passes were happening to enjoy the story of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's lame. You're kind of just if I don't play the game when when the event happens, then I'm just missing out on everything.
You must be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been playing well, it's not a new genre, but a genre that's new to me over the past few days. I went and got a game called The Isle. Have either of you ever played a animal survival game?
I've heard of it, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I can't do another survival
Could
game.
be the most difficult thing I have ever played in my life.
Oh, really?
Like I haven't had an animal survive 45 minutes yet.
Really?
Like literally what the game is.
This one you play as a dinosaur.
You pick a dinosaur. They've all got different abilities, different skills. Some can fly, some are, like a crocodile that's in all the water areas, and you try to lure dinosaurs to the water to drink and then, nab them. But you start as a baby or a hatchling, and you've got to try to grow to a full-size prehistoric animal.
Got it.
And
so it's just survival. It's not even survival crafting. It's just survival.
It's just survival, but it's also all the other animals are, well, there are some AI generated animals, but they're like, random fish or, a mushroom that you have to eat, because when you're a hatchling, you can't kill anything.
Right.
So it is like being a hatchling animal. You're literally like, I have had probably 12 different characters die before I could find my first meal or make it to water. It is the most punishing games I have ever seen or played in my life. There's something, I mean, it's a beautiful game. Everything looks fantastic. You've got a limit of 100 players on a server, and the map is gigantic. So that is an issue that you could never see anybody else while trying to play it.
You have to worry about other players killing you.
Oh yeah, the other players that have survived and have gotten to the fully grown stage, there's hardly anything that can kill them except for something else that's fully grown. So they can just prey on anything that's smaller than them at any time. And you can create like clans and groups. There is that capability within the game to create groups to where you've just got roving gangs of dinosaurs just ganking everybody. But
that does sound interesting.
The fun and interesting part is just trying to get to where you could actually be strong enough to survive a little bit. that's really hitting your head against a wall.
Yeah, but it would really piss me off, but also like I would have a hard time putting it down.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because I've played it for like probably 20 hours in the past 3 days. And it's like I still haven't gotten an animal out of the juvenile stage. Just finding your first meal, because I mean your hunger is constantly, it's got a meter for your hunger, a meter for your thirst, and a meter for your stamina. So you'll starve to death in 15 minutes if you don't find the first meal.
Huh.
And it's typically not something you can kill unless you can like get to water and then catch a fish that's randomly swimming around in some pond. But then you've got a whole bunch of fully grown crocodile dinosaurs that are sitting there trying to hunt anybody who's trying to get that first meal. So it's crazy.
Sounds like
if anybody hasn't seen it, it was just a random YouTube video that came up for me, and I was like, that actually looks like an interesting, design for a game. I don't think I've ever played as like an animal in a survival game before. Yeah. And it's kind of like when you see those baby sea turtles all hatching on the Nature Channel, and 90% of them get eaten on their way to try to get into the ocean because all the seagulls are just like, hey, it's a feast. That's what it feels like playing the game, but it looks great. And that game is early access since it's been 9 years. 5 years in, they just scrapped the whole system and said, okay, we're doing a whole new game. So to actually play the new game, when you get into Steam, you have to click on properties, go to the beta testing, and go to the system that they're using now. Because if you just download the game or buy the game, it's going to try to put you in the legacy one, which hasn't been developed for almost 5 years now, and is absolute trash, and nobody's in it. So, I mean, the developer is doing a horrible job, but the game is beautiful, and it is kind of fun if you are fine with just dying constantly and having to restart.
So what's the
Which
dino
is-
meta?
I think it's the crocodile, actually, because most of the dinosaurs aren't very good at swimming, but everything has to come drink water at some point.
Oh, okay.
So you've got a whole bunch. I mean, if you've got a solo dinosaur of any of the other dinosaurs and they don't have a group protecting them, then they have to, creep up to the water and try to get a drink so that they don't die of thirst. And most of the crocodiles are just sitting there under the water, and their attack is basically lunge out of the water and grab something that's trying to get a drink. So
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, crocodiles are kind of like the only dinosaurs that are still around.
Yep. And they get huge in this game.
Yeah.
If you can survive long enough to do it. I mean,
Right.
there's even pterodactyls. I think they're pteranodons in the game. So there's even a flying dinosaur that you can play as. So you can just sit there and glide all over the island and then just dive bomb things. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different play styles. I mean, there's one dinosaur that like climbs the trees and then will just dive down anytime you see something walk underneath you. You can just dive down completely, stab into the back of the dinosaur and hope that you're big enough that it actually does enough damage to kill the other dinosaurs so you can eat it.
Nice.
It's interesting. It's fun, but it's also frustrating as hell.
I've decided to, as much as I like this game, I've decided to uninstall Marvel Rivals. I think I'm done.
Already over it?
It's fun, but I'm too old to get into another competitive shooter. I can't.
You're pulling the
I
mad.
knew from the very beginning it was not going to be a game for me.
I mean, I like these games. But the problem is I get too competitive,
Too invested.
Yeah, and to be I don't care what anyone says. You want to be good at these games, you have to practice. I'm not going to be practicing. Yeah, I'm not going to practice. I don't. This game more than Overwatch has way more comboing with heroes, and even with their abilities. There's way more abilities that these characters have, and I don't have the patience to learn it all. And again, I'm just too old to be learning it. The game looks cool and it's so much fun, but
yeah, it's a game I don't mind watching, but it's just one of those games where it's just people get way too bent out of shape if you're not doing the right things at the right time.
Right. And I'm almost 40 years old. Sorry, bro, in quick match. I don't care what character you're playing. I'm not going to super team up with you. I'm here to do a daily quest and learn Mr. Fantastic. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's why Mad doesn't jump into ranked. That's why he plays zombies in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Because he could just play the game, enjoy it, and not have to deal with anything else. Because he did used to actually play competitive shooters. And he does not want to get sucked back into trying to climb ranks in a competitive shooter.
See, that's the thing.
So he just refuses to play. And the couple times that he did play multiplayer with us, it was because we were in a private lobby. Didn't matter. We were just kind of having fun with, 10, 15 of us in a private lobby doing our thing, not trying to be ultra competitive, just goofing off amongst a whole bunch of people that kind of know each other from YouTube.
The funny thing is I've never known, it's never registered in my mind that Call of Duty was a competitive shooter. It was always an arcade, have fun with your friends, and you would try
if you're
to
trying
win,
to climb the ranked, though, it is.
Yeah, but that was never the game I played competitively was Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike was the FPS that was that set the standard of if you wanted to be an FPS player, you played Counter-Strike, and if you were good, you were good. Whereas Call of Duty was I got everyone plays on console, and you just kind of. And I know that people had
right.
I would say Call of Duty and Halo was just that game that you played with your friends, just a fun shooter. You teamed up with friends and played those games.
Yeah.
And Mad wasn't competitive in Call of Duty. I can't remember which game it was. It may have been Counter-Strike, but the whole thing is he knows that if he starts playing another shooter like that and getting into ranked and the competitiveness will come out to the point that, it'll dominate his life. So
Yeah.
he does not want to get into that same kind of thing you're saying with Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, I know my limits now. I'll stick with Balatro and like that shit.
Yeah. Because the other thing with those games is unless you kind of playing solo in those and trying to be competitive doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you're going to be serious about it, you really got to take in a squad. I mean, or you're just going to get blown away in most of the ranked matches, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's why the only thing I've ever done ranked in and really cared about was like fighting games.
Oh,
and even then, it's like you get to, at my skill level, you get to like C or B, and then you better know one-touch combos, or you're never progressing past C or B.
Yep.
And then you just see the same people over and over and over, and that's when the game dies for me.
Yeah, fighting games. I've always wanted to be good at them, but I don't even bother anymore. Just like these shooter games, it's like
I'm good at basic combos and figuring out, a few different patterns that you can kind of take advantage of people with during the first few months of a fighting game. But then after that, I'm not going to practice a combo on a fight stick for 6 hours in the training room to try to hope that I get one opening where I can use that freaking combo to win, because I don't care to do the combo that many times to have it muscle memoried to do it.
Yep.
Well, but it is amazing what some of these fighting game, the actual fighting game community, can do on like a Marvel versus Capcom game. One touch and the match is over. I mean, it's insane.
Were you gonna say something, Raiken?
I was just fighting games has never been my strong suit, because like a lot of times it's just like if you want to hit those combos, it's like it's a very much like you have to have like a specific rhythm for like hitting the buttons to initiate the combos correctly, and it's like I can never get that down.
The timing window is very strict.
Yeah, and like I was never able to figure those like timing windows out, and so it was like I never like there's only like a handful of fighting games that I ever really enjoyed, like Smash Brothers. That was like the only one I can really get into.
Yeah, I'll have fun with Smash Brothers with like with my kids sometimes. Just because they're bad at it, so am I. So like, okay, I'll have fun.
But it's also, you can kind of be bad at Smash Brothers and still have a fun time playing it, because it doesn't like there's kind of combos in there, but it's just like you just gotta have to get in, and once you get in like a solid hit, then it's like if you can kind of keep on peppering them, then it's just like you can take out somebody.
Yep. Well, that's why I really liked Multiverses when it came out. Like the Looney Tunes WB fighter, like, and
they did
it's like all but failed.
Well, because I just barely remember like them seeing that. I was like, that looks kind of cool, but it's just like I feel like they just did not push it at all.
Yeah, I think it's almost like they didn't know how to market it, which I don't know how you don't know how to market. The characters are so memorable and everyone knows who they are.
Just market it to all the millennials that are fans of Smash Brothers. They will love that game because they all grew up watching Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and I played a lot of that like during its beta, and then when it kind of like first released, and because I had played it from the beginning, I understood how the characters worked, and like I didn't feel like I was trying to learn them while everyone else knew what they were
Advantage
doing.
over the newbies.
Yeah, so I really liked I was a Shaggy main, of course, but and then who was it? Finn. I played Finn as well. Like he was another really good one. But yeah, I just
and I get what you're saying with like Smash Brothers, Raiken, because I mean that is the ultimate. If you're not going to take it to the pro level, a button masher can play that game all day long, because the game is essentially button mashing until you jump to the actual pro level on that game, where you actually think about things.
Yeah, because there is like a level once you hit in Smash Brothers that like if you're not really like thoughtful about your attacks, you are going to get like screwed over.
Yeah.
But
The same 4 guys kept winning Evo for like 10, 15 years out of that. Evo being like the world championships in fighting game.
Yep.
The other one that I always thought was very entry level good type game to do was like the Soul Calibur series. You could get away with button mashing in that game because the moves were so devastating, but you didn't have to like know down to forward or down the back. It was like if you hit the button, it did one attack. If you hit the button while holding forward, it did another attack. If you hit it while holding back, it did a different attack. So it was a lot like Smash in that way that, you know, you didn't have to learn combinations for what the actual moves were. It was just like, oh, well, if I'm pressing this direction and hit, you know, the overhead attack, it's going to bring out this. So you kind of comboed automatically in that.
Yep.
Just by hitting different buttons and pressing different directions. Same kind of thing as Smash, I think. Just a little bit less cartoonish.
Yep.
And a lot better boobs.
Off the subject of fighter games, but like just to go back to like the earlier when we were talking about Watch After Wilds, is like I'd say this is like a very entry level game for a lot of people because it is kind of like that where it's like it's really easy to do a lot of like the combos. So it's like a really good one for people to like get into because like previously like the other games were a lot harder to like to do stuff and it took a lot of practice to get used to using the weapons, and I feel like this one's a little bit more accessible with those. Like it's a lot easier to initiate a lot of those weapon combos in this game for somebody that sucks at doing combos.
Yeah, I've heard this very same thing. I've heard that the onboarding for a lot of the systems in that game is good. But at the same time, it was kind of like also what we were talking about earlier, that the sort of prologue of that game like holds your hand for too long and you can't really like,
really.
No, you thought
no. It like there's like a little bit in the very like maybe like the first hour of the game, like it's gonna hold your hand. After that, you kind of just get into it. Okay. Like you get to like hunting monsters right away, and you can just like once you're like they're not going to introduce like a bunch of like harder monsters until you progress further through the story, but you can just kind of go and hunt the same monsters over and over again if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then just like progressing through the story, it's not too story heavy to where you're like sitting there in a bunch of cutscenes.
Yeah.
You can they're like throwing monsters at you fairly regularly.
I also it's funny. I liked Monster Hunter World a lot. But I just like the aesthetic was always tough for me to get into. I don't love the aesthetic of those games but the combat saves it, you know, like the mechanics of it.
Was that the one from like 3 or 4 years ago?
Probably
2018?
Yeah,
2018?
Yeah, that's kind of 7 years ago. That sounds right. Yeah, 2018 sounds about right.
Because it was Worlds, and then they did Rise for like the Wii, or not the Wii, the Switch.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I just don't like that. I'm not into the weeb shit. Like, so I don't play I don't play Final Fantasy 14. It's just way too weeby for me. And I hate furries. So
well established fact.
It is. Fuck them furries.
Well, at least like the Palico companions are not like human. Like they just look like cats that walk on hind legs.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's the only Monster Hunter game I ever bought and played, and I had no enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste because
I'll say Worlds for me, like I had to play it for a while before I finally like was like play it for a while and find the right weapon before I like started to really enjoy it.
Yeah. I think Brahm, if you're ever to go back to it, I would probably say just do like if you weren't like just do Sword and Shield. I think is like the best way to go with that game. It gave me way more enjoyment because I think I started off with like like the great sword, and then I went to like the bow, and then I was like, I lost steam in it, and then I finally my friend was like, just do the sword and shield, and like you'll be fine, like, until you understand like everything, and then I think after that was after I played Dark Souls, so it was like I was way like, and with Dark Souls I would often play with a shield,
strafe with the shield up, and then yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
You know what everybody says is the absolute wrong way to play Dark Souls.
Ugh. I keep trying challenge runs with Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, but what I realized is like I just need to play these games. I'm too far removed from my first playthrough or second playthrough.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to go back and play them again just to remember where everything is or where most of the stuff is.
Actually, Dark Souls 3, the guy who did seamless co-op for Elden Ring, Imp was telling me yesterday that that guy just developed a seamless co-op for Dark Souls 3 now. So now's the perfect time to go back through and do a playthrough with some bros, because you could probably do it with most of our knowledge of Dark Souls, we can probably get through Dark Souls 3 in 2 days if we wanted to. And seamless co-op is so much better than their stupid co-op system that they had for those games.
Do they have? Is there like a mod? What I would love is a mod that lets you like just practice with bosses. Like you could
boss rush mode type thing.
So I guess like that would probably be the best way to do it, because I would really like to practice. Well, one of the speed run or Souls level 1 tactics for Dark Souls 3 is to kill the dancer right away and get into Lothar Castle like first. But my God, is the dancer like a difficult fight at Souls level 1? Like,
well, if you don't kill Boreal, you can use the summon that was for Boreal to take it up to the dancer, unless they patch that out at some point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because that summon will follow you back up the stairs. It doesn't know which boss you're supposed to be going to. So that can help with that in a run where you've at least got somebody absorbing a little bit of damage for you from the dancer.
Yeah. I said
I'll cheat any way I can.
Right. Oh man, there's a clip somewhere in my clip folder of me. I was fighting what's her name, sister, in the Painted World.
Yeah. Is it Freya? Something.
Yeah, whatever her name is.
The one that's got the tail, looks like a cat type chick.
She fights
cut off
with
her tail, I think.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm like fighting her, and I don't even know how it happened, but she was down to maybe she was at like 2/3 of her health, and I'm on New Game Plus, so she's got more health, but I'm using like this giant fucking hammer, like it's so big, and something happens where my game like alt tabs out of nowhere. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I like get back and I'm like, okay. And then it does it again. And I'm like, God damn, what is happening? And it was just enough time. I couldn't quite like get myself back in order. And she like did that move where she like picks you up and like flings you in the air. And like, you're basically dead from it. Oh.
I think my favorite was watching you do the Soul Level 1 run when you got to, I can't remember the name of the boss, but it's the one where it's all the knights are fighting each other in just past the forest.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name.
God, what the hell is their names? It's right after the
crossroads in the forest area. You go up the hill and then you go in and one guy's fighting another, and then you've got to take out the first one, and then a whole bunch of others spawn, and they kind of fight each other while fighting you.
Why can't I think of their names?
I think it had to do with Farron, but I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Let me see here. I'm gonna find their names because now I want.
But I watched you do that fight at Soul Level 1 for like 2 hours, and then you were like, screw it. And I don't think I ever saw you go back to that run.
No, that one I beat. Fine. There was another one that.
Well, you
that
may
I
have beat
did.
fine, but not. It took you a while. When I was watching.
The Abyssal Watchers.
Okay. Yeah.
So are you sure you're not thinking of the Four Kings in Dark Souls 1? Because that one.
No, it was definitely DS3 that I was watching.
Was it?
I think I was the only person in chat too. So.
Yeah, I may have. Oh, yeah, I definitely that one. I think I had trouble with the first time, but I ended up getting it like the next time I was like on that run. I'm stuck on Pontiff. Pontiff is like the serious
one will be.
Skill check at that on that game. You just need to know that fight. Because after that, it's Yorm. Well, Aldrich,
which is
another
a joke.
Yeah, Yorm is easy. Aldrich is that one's annoying.
And well, the Pontiff may be the most difficult boss in the game if you don't get the pattern down. Dancer, I always found pretty easy, even early on before they started doing the strategies. I accidentally went to the Dancer, I think, within my first 2 or 3 run-throughs of the game. You know, not realizing that you could actually activate it and then activating it. And then it was just like, all right, well, I'll bang my head against this for 3 hours until I get it. Who cares if I could go fight Boreal and continue the storyline? Let's see what happens here.
I wish you could parry more bosses in DS3 because I feel like you just can't.
Yeah.
That would be because I was having a lot of fun with parrying because I was trying to practice that a lot more too with these runs.
I remember in Dark Souls 2 that first playthrough when I was your first playthrough when I was one of the only people in chat and you were dealing with that first area with those gigantic knights and you were like, well, I'm going to learn to parry now. So for the next 45 minutes we watched you die while you tried to parry. Occasionally you would get one. But I hate parrying in that game. I hate parrying in all of the Dark Souls games.
Are y'all going to play?
That's why I'm no good at Sekiro. I can't parry. I suck at Sekiro.
Oh yeah, Mouse PI. Is that the like?
It's the old school Mickey Mouse looking game where you're pretty much a detective.
Oh yeah,
that does like the black and white. Like
1920s like animation.
Cartoon.
Yeah.
Are you excited for Night Rain, Shags?
Yeah, that does look really cool, honestly. I just like the whole concept behind it. I think it's a really well thought out like mod, it's a
roguelike Elden Ring.
Yeah. I mean, because it really scratches the itch. Like I really like roguelikes and I like, I like the difficulties of games like Elden Ring. So it's just kind of all, and it's like BR-ish, like in a weird sort of way. So be cool.
Well, you'll have to, I know me and Slender and Imp are going to play it, but if anybody's, we'll have to get a few different threesomes together.
Yeah.
Angry Canadian, wait till you get to the end of Wukong. I mean, that last fight stuff in that one is just kind of insane.
We need a new Twisted Metal.
I agree.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal was like, I don't know, man. I spent so much time. Like, I mean, it's everyone's like almost like first foray into battle royales, that, and actually Twisted Metal. And then there was a game that was very similar to it called Vigilante 8. Which if you haven't paid, if you have the ability to try and go play it, I would recommend going to play Vigilante 8. It was so good. But yeah, just just those games alone, like I remember being up like all night playing with friends. But I think, I mean, the most you have is like 2. You know, you play split screen, maybe 4. But
You could do 4, yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
get real into Twisted Metal back in the PS1 days, but we did enjoy basically one of the launch titles, Destruction Derby.
okay,
Or,
I never
or
played.
was it Demolition Derby? It was either Destruction Derby or Demolition Derby, where it was literally just, like on a Sunday night at the rodeo arena, where they bring out all the old clunkers and you just run them into each other until they're completely destroyed. It was one of the first demo discs for the PS1 as well.
Okay. Dan in the Dirt says, I already have my dream Twisted Metal sequel, Twisted Metal Back to Black. Yeah. Yeah, Twisted Metal Black was actually really good. I remember that game. And that was PS2, right?
I think so.
I think that was
It originally came out on the PS1,
Yeah.
the first Twisted Metal. It was one of the early releases for it, but that's another show that people kind of slept on. Twisted Metal was not a bad show.
The problem's wrong. The problem is Anthony Mackie's not a good actor, and I want people to stop pretending that he is, and because he plays the exact same person in everything. I see Anthony Mackie in these movies. I don't see the character he plays, and that's one of the reasons I don't really like. I don't care for him as Captain America, because when he steps into that role, I'm like, I barely see him as the Falcon. No.
Yeah, I didn't think he was as bad in Twisted Metal, but I thought Sweet Tooth made up for anything that Anthony Mackie lacked, because the character of Sweet Tooth in the TV series was spot on perfect. The casting of Samoa Joe as the actual person, and then the dude who did Batman's voice in the Lego movie. I never can remember his name. Yeah, Arnett doing the voice for Sweet Tooth was perfect. I thought it was a fun show.
What characters were in Twisted Metal, the show?
Sweet Tooth is the main one that everybody would know, but I mean, they did bring in others. I didn't play enough Twisted Metal to know the characters well enough. Sweet Tooth is obviously the iconic character with the ice cream truck. So
let's see, the original Twisted Metal characters: Mr. Grimm, Axel, Darkseid, Roadkill, Crazy 8, Spectre, Agent Stone, Dollface, Outlaw, Calypso, Hammerhead.
Dirt is saying Sweet Tooth, Roamstum, Tombstone from the show.
But is there any? Oh, Warthog. I remember Warthog. But was there any, like, besides Sweet Tooth, was there any characters from the games that were in the show?
I think they're alluding to some of the characters becoming some of the characters.
Oh, okay.
Because the actual Twisted Metal storyline stuff that came a little bit later in the gaming series is just being developed in the first season of the show. You're not really they're kind of developing to where it's going to turn into like a tournament type thing. But right now it's more like, at the moment, it's more like, I guess, Road Warrior, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
and then they're kind of developing into it's going to be a corporate thing where people are being hired as drivers and racers, that kind of thing.
Okay. So yeah. All right. So yeah. All right. So
I honestly never remembered most of the characters from Twisted Metal other than the clown. I always just remember the vehicles.
Well, yeah. So the vehicle is Sweet Tooth. The driver is Needles Kane. Yellow Jacket is the vehicle. Charlie Kane is the driver. Darkseid is the vehicle. Mr. Ash is the driver. And it looks like, so Agent Stone is in the show. And that's Crimson Fury. Oh shit, where did that thing go? Twisted Metal characters. Let me see if I can. See the show.
Copy Kitty, are you saying Meme Copium is a dinosaur game, or Meme Copium is a streamer who started playing a dinosaur game?
Oh my god, David Jaffe was
Because I'm
involved.
kind of liking these dinosaur games, the survival thing. If there's a good one that's not in early access that for 9 years, I would like to try one that's actually completed, but I'm not finding any yet.
Have you played Ark?
It's
Survival
different
Evolved.
than, yeah, I mean, I've got it. I've played a little bit of it. It's different than what this kind of survival game is, where you're actually the animal, not just taming a dinosaur to ride it, that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Oh, Thomas Hayden Church is Hayden Stone. Awesome. It looks like I don't really see any of these other. Well, Granny
Like I
Dread-
said, they're kind of getting into like the tournament type aspect in season 2, assuming there is a season 2. I honestly haven't heard whether they're doing a season 2.
Oh, okay.
But the first season was kind of like Road Warrior. You know, everybody's just kind of out in a outside of the major corporate area. Everybody's just kind of on their own trying to survive.
Okay. Okay.
But it was a good show. I've talked to quite a few people who enjoyed it alongside me, and in an era where we're hating on a lot of shows, when you can find one that is a pretty good one, you know, give it a try.
Yeah, if you like it, you like it. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Did you watch it or not?
No. So that I'll be clear. I did not watch the show. My issue is always like I just have an issue with Anthony Mackie. Like him as an actor, I have zero interest in what he does. Like I saw an ad for that Elevation movie. Like he's like The Rock. He's like this is the very same thing in everything he does. So to that end, I'm just like,
I think for his character in this, you can probably overlook him a little bit because while he is the main character, it's kind of like what was the show that came out this year that was based on the video game? Was it Fallout that they did?
Yeah, Fallout.
Yep.
So it's kind of like you've got a whole bunch of side characters that are also just as much main characters.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I mean, it's kind of an ensemble type thing, even though Anthony, it's getting late, but Anthony Mackie is technically the main lead, but there's enough side characters to carry it without having to focus on him.
Okay. My cat is like, "What are you doing, Dad?"
What are we doing? It's 2 hours and 30 minutes into the show.
We're in.
Yeah, I'm about ready to.
We don't have to do 3 hours every week.
No. No, I was just gonna say this is good. It's like a little after 12, and I think we hit the stuff I wanted to hit and talk about. So it sounds like Raiken's ready to turn in for the night, which is fine with me, yo.
I'm getting tongue twisted, so I'm about ready.
I got a busy day tomorrow.
What do you got coming up? Let us know what you got going on before you part, and we head out.
Let's see. This week, probably just gonna be playing a lot more Monster Hunter Wilds. Then I got to pick up Camelot from the airport, and then we'll probably be hanging out with him tomorrow or Friday and Saturday because he's gonna be racing.
Nice.
And I might try to see if I can do like a little bit of live stream from like the NASCAR pits.
Nice.
Cool.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Brahma, what do you got coming up? Anything good?
Oh, the usual. On my channel, Saturday night, bourbon and boarding, talking about hockey, having a couple drinks. Trade deadline is Friday for the NHL. So Saturday, we will be going over all the craziness from the trade deadline. Should be a lot of it. We're expecting a lot of it, but they're waiting until the last second. So Sunday morning, I've got the political show, The Bullpen, which Shags still would love to have you on sometime. Talk a little bit of current politics. And this week, obviously, we've got the State of the Union, and we've got some fallout from the Zelensky talk in the Oval Office. So it'll be an interesting show.
Right on. I will try and make them. Weekends have been strictly family time from the last couple of weeks. So if I can,
yeah, that's part of the reason I do the bullpen so early on a Sunday. Like I get up, I do church, and then immediately go into the show. But then the rest of the day wide open. So
nice. Yeah. For me, guys, you know what I do. I'm here basically on Wednesday nights, and then Monday or Tuesday or both days I've been doing a conversation depending on the news. So those have been good. I've been running them from StreamYard on my phone, which brings a little bit added production value to it. And yeah, it's been fun. Tonight we had a couple of really good conversations. I want to thank you guys all for hanging out, and we had a couple of awesome super chats from DeBeast and Joe Atmosphere. I really appreciate you guys supporting. And yeah, that's gonna do it for us. It's late. You guys go have a little nap. Go to bed. I can't even talk.
You mean watch Daredevil so that I can be ready for tomorrow night's shows?
Go watch Daredevil. Raiken, thank you for joining us again. Oh, and just so everyone knows, Raiken's gonna probably join us week after week. He's gonna be a regular part of the panel. So everyone, make sure you're following him. I updated everyone's links. They're down in the description below. Make sure you're following everyone. And yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
You've even got Raiken on the thumbnail now. So
I know. Can you believe that? Look at that.
You got us all on there instead of the old crew.
I know. I'm beautiful.
I even yelled at Mad in DMs. I was like, thought you were coming on tonight. We even threw you on the thumbnail. Shags was expecting you. What the hell?
Yeah.
He's probably been asleep for 7 hours.
He's off the thumbnail now.
Nice.
All right, guys, we're out of here. We're tired. We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy. Toodles.
Night.
I like to put stuff online.